Pirate I was dug up by Robin, Chapter 201-220. 201 No. Don't eat me. Boy, tell me, who is your teacher? Just a dazzle. Roland, who was originally on the second deck, appeared in front of the black-haired boy Lucio, who was standing with his sword closed. Looking at Luo Lin who suddenly appeared in front of him, the black-haired boy Lucio was also startled, and instinctively took a few steps backwards. Standing still, his right hand subconsciously landed on the handle of Kang Yan, the good and quick knife. The response was not slow, but when Luo Lin opened his mouth, the conversation changed. Whether it's you or your teacher, it's still a long way off. Roland grinned Isho. Next second, the sky split with the corners of his mouth. The terrifying sword intent that was so powerful that it changed the color of heaven and earth rushed out of Luo Lin's body, splitting the sky. The sky cracked open. Endless clouds rushed towards the crack. This scene is like extinction. The black-haired boy Lucio, the fish-man youth, the peaked cap girl Alice, and everyone on the boat were shocked. Sword intent comes and goes quickly. After a while, the terrifying sword intent that started from Luo Lin converged. The cracks in the sky gradually healed. Everything is back to normal. Only the people on the boat were still immersed in the previous shocking scene, unable to extricate themselves. The eyes that looked at Luo Lin were full of awe. Agaga, so Mr. Roland, you are still a great swordsman. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, murmured in shock. At the same time, he couldn't help comparing Roland's sword with his teacher Rayleigh's sword. As a result, she came to a conclusion that shocked her. Except for Conqueror Hockey. Her teacher Rayleigh seems to be inferior to Roland in front of him in swordsmanship. No, even I haven't really seen Mr. Rayleigh's kendo realm. It must be for this reason, it must be. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, secretly made an excuse. Lucio, what's wrong with you, Lucio? Just as the girl Alice nodded secretly, the anxious voice of the fish-man youth suddenly came from her ear. The green-skinned fish-man youth looked anxiously at the black-haired boy Lucio and called out loudly. Haired boy Lucio remained motionless, without the slightest reaction. Agaga, Mr. Roland, this young man will not be frightened by your sword intent. Alice made an unreliable guess. Next second. Just as Alice's voice fell, the black-haired boy Lucio's body suddenly jolted, and he recovered from his sluggish state. Lucio, are you all right? Asked the fish-man youth. Don't worry, Nob, I'm fine. The black-haired boy nodded, a look of joy and excitement gradually appeared on his face. Sir, thank you very much for your suggestion. The black-haired boy Lucio looked at Roland with excitement. The wide eyes of the girl Alice and fishman Nobel, they respectfully bowed to Roland. For the black-haired boy Lucio's kneeling, Roland did not let go, but calmly accepted it. Zorro at the beginning. Previously, Luo Lin's high-spirited sword intent was not to show off or demonstrate to his younger generation, but pointing straight in the dark-haired boy's winding path of kendo. After all, the teacher who taught him swordsmanship was not really an orthodox swordsmanship teacher. If it weren't for the black-haired boy Lucio's excellent kendo talent, coupled with his own efforts and dedication to kendo, I am afraid that he would not have reached the level of today's iron swordsman. If this was replaced by someone with ordinary talent, or if he didn't work hard enough, he would have been led to an unknown corner long ago. For the time being, the black-haired boy Lucio is also a disciple of Roland's disciple. As a teacher, he naturally couldn't sit idly by. Get up. Roland nodded in satisfaction. Yes, sir. The black-haired boy Lucio got up. Then, holding the good and fast sword Kang Yan in both hands, he returned it to Luo Lin. No, it's your thing. Roland waved his hand casually. By the way, if you want that big sharp knife over there, take it too. What? Hearing this, the black-haired boy Lucio still didn't respond. The fishman youth Nob and the girl Alice, who were beside them, widened their shocked eyes again. Thank you, but no need, I will use my own strength to make this Kang Yan into a black sword. The black-haired boy Lucio refused. Well, then you have to work hard. Roland waved his back to the black-haired boy and walked away. Mr. Roland. Alice, the girl who had recovered from the shock, trotted 2 steps quickly to keep up with Roland's pace. Mr. Roland, what's going on? You were pointing at that boy earlier. Why? As a senior in kendo, it's normal to give pointers to juniors. Luo Lin said as a matter of course. Oh, no. Alice shook her head. I seem to have heard Mr. Roland ask the boy's teacher just now. Does Mr. Roland know his teacher? The girl Alice asked with a gossip on her face. Hee. Roland smiled and said nothing. It's good to be alive. The other side. Roland's back go away. The fishman young Nobel looked back at his friend. Lucio, what the hell is going on? Was that gentleman really pointing you out just now? The black-haired boy Lucio nodded heavily. The expression on his face is full of excitement, not just because of the improvement of his own swordsmanship. It was because of another greater excitement and joy that his body trembled unconsciously. But why? No, do you remember? What? The teacher took a group photo with someone whom Grandpa Sample mentioned many times when he was drunk, and the Marine that we once saw the old photo that the teacher kept. The person that Grandpa Mu Lian and the teacher mentioned. Are you referring to Grandpa Mu Lian's former officer in Marine? Fishman Nobel suddenly widened his eyes, his green face full of shock and disbelief. How can it be? I am in the same mood as you, but... The black-haired boy Lucio looked up at the sky and grinned with a bright smile. If the teacher knew, I would be so happy. The busy day passed. Night falls. With the efforts of the girl Alice, most people's emotions were basically stabilized, and they fell asleep peacefully in their respective rooms. 377. Agaga. The girl Alice's mantra sounded. Immediately afterwards, a flexible figure jumped onto the observation deck at the highest point of the ship. Aren't you Shaki's intelligence agent? Are you doing this kind of thing all the time? Roland looked up at the stars. Agaga, Sister Shaki is very good. As long as we complete the task, most of the time is free. The girl Alice said. Aren't you afraid to do such a dangerous thing straight? Roland asked again. I'm afraid, of course I'm afraid, but even so, I have to do it. I can't just watch those poor people being arbitrarily bought and sold by these scumbags, and finally fall into the abyss. At the end, the girl Alice's voice gradually became low and inaudible. My ability is limited and I can't save all the abducted and trafficked people, but at least, I always have to do something. After a while, the girl Alice spoke again, her voice firm. What a kind little girl. Roland's big hand fell on Alice's head. A kind little girl, there is always something to be rewarded. Agaga, really? The girl Alice's eyes suddenly lit up. Thank you, Mr. Roland, you are very kind. Without further ado, the girl Alice thanked first, and then asked, Mr. Roland, what reward do you want to give me? Well, take off your clothes first. Roland said. W. Hearing this, the girl Alice suddenly widened her eyes in shock, jumped up like a frightened rabbit, and hid in the corner. Don't eat me, I'm not cute at all. Chapter 202 Kazaru and Kuzan staring at going, arc. Take off your clothes first. When she heard Roland's request, Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, jumped up like a frightened rabbit. Looking like she was trembling. Mr. Rollins, you are joking. The girl Alice forced a smile. Do you look like I'm joking? Roland spoke with a serious face, and stepped towards the girl who was unable to retreat in the corner. Aga gaga gaga. Seeing the shadow gradually covering her body, the girl Alice suddenly widened her beautiful eyes in panic. No, don't eat me, I'm not cute at all, not delicious at all. Girl Alice showed a pitiful look, and she was about to cry. However, Luo Lin's footsteps did not slow down in the slightest because of her begging for mercy. Mr. Roland. Seeing that begging for mercy was useless, the girl Alice quickly wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes, and her tone became much tougher. Mr. Roland, even if you are Sister Shacky's honored guest, even if your strength is much stronger than mine, but I am not. The girl Alice has not finished speaking. Luo Lin's big hand, a hug, strong and domineering to bring it into his arms. So the rest of the tough words were turned into coquettish shouts. Agaga, it's miserable, it's really miserable this time. Could it be that Mr. Roland in the daytime is different from the night? He said clearly and graciously in the morning. Sister Shacky didn't say that this person would force it. The information is wrong, hey. That's all, I can't escape today. Thinking about it carefully, Mr. Luo Lin is so handsome and powerful, I don't seem to suffer too much. Alice, a girl in a peaked cap, is carrying out a series of rich psychological activities in her heart, constantly comforting herself. In the end, he closed his eyes and let Luo Lin do what he did. 039 tier 039. It was the sound of broken clothes. But not the whole dress. Even if her heart is like a deer, but she has no clothes on her body, it is naturally impossible for her to know this. The girl Alice opened her confused eyes, and just wanted to ask Roland what he was doing. The next moment, her body suddenly tensed. Because Roland's big hand fell on her skin. It's more because the part where the big warm hand falls is a taboo of her body, her back. Her past is hidden there. Hiding the tragic memories she couldn't bear to look back. No, for a moment. The pretty rosy face of the girl Alice turned pale. His lips and even his entire body trembled involuntarily. The strength that was disguised in the past collapsed and shattered at this moment. Don't look. The girl Alice almost collapsed and buried her head in Roland's arms. Heart panic, helpless, fell into extreme panic. She was afraid of the expression that Luo Lin showed after seeing the 039 scar 039 on her back. Once captured by Tenryubito, the imprint of the dragon flying hoof left on her back is a scar that she will never forget in her life. I'm sorry, but The girl Alice choked up. At this moment, even a complete sentence could not be uttered. Bean-sized tears could not stop overflowing from her eyes, soaking Luo Lin's shirt. The strong disguise she used to protect herself collapsed in an instant when she touched on the secret she valued most. All that's left is endless inferiority. I'm sorry. The girl Alice apologized again, struggling to escape. Don't cry. Roland's commanding voice exploded in the ears of the girl Alice, like a thunderbolt. Don't apologize, you did nothing wrong. Look up, it's just a little scar, no big deal. Listening to Roland's majestic order, the young girl Alice's delicate body Vivi trembled, and her ups and downs calmed down a little. After a long while, with the encouragement of Luo Lin, she finally gathered up the courage and looked up at Luo Lin. Even if she knew about her past experience, those eyes were still the same as usual, so clear, so fascinating, without any contempt or other meaning. Be patient, it may be a little uncomfortable at first. Roland is back to his usual smile. The girl Alice held back her tears. Although he didn't know what Roland was going to do, he nodded obediently. Roland took out from his pocket the small can of special medicine that Vivi had been treated for sprains. Then, lightly smeared on the imprint of the dragon soaring hoof on the girl's back. A ticklish feeling came from her back, causing the delicate body of the young girl Alice to tremble unconsciously. But soon, the itchy discomfort disappeared. Instead, there was an indescribable feeling of coolness in the back that the girl Alice could not see. That scarlet brand of humiliation, representing Tenryubito's slaves, disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, and eventually disappeared completely. The skin that was scalded when I was young is now as white and smooth as a newborn baby. Okay. Roland let go of the girl Alice. Good moment. The young girl Alice hurriedly struggled to get up from Roland's arms. Mr. Roland, you arrived earlier. The girl Alice was about to ask. The next moment, Her voice stopped abruptly. Shuangmei's eyes were round and round, her head was tilted to the maximum, and she stared blankly at the picture reflected in the mirror behind her. That's her back. At the entrance, it is white. The mark of humiliation that once made her feel inferior for countless times, the mark of Tianlong flying hoofs that made her never dare to wear cool clothes like other girls, has disappeared. Not a shred of it could be seen. Gentlemen. The past cannot be forgotten, but the future is more important. Little girl, what will your future be like? Luo Lin asked with a smile. Humming. Alice threw herself into Roland's arms again, and tears flowed out of the girl's eyes uncontrollably once again. However, this time is joy and emotion. The transport ship rides the wind and waves, moving in one direction impartially. 2 days later. The Sabayati Islands have arrived. Mr. Roland, what are you thinking? The girl Alice noticed Roland's frown and asked. No, nothing, get ready to go back. Roland said casually. His eyes still fell on the colorful bubble islands in the distance. The sun is still shining. Sabayati Islands a week ago had disappeared. That shock boy, he's also restless to be a bodyguard. You didn't run away, did you? Roland's eyes, Vivi good for money, squinted a dangerous arc. At this moment. An uninhabited island 100 miles away. The conflict between the terrifying thundercloud and the dazzling light of the sun continues. The sea around the island is frozen by endless ice. 039 Chi Chi 039. At a certain moment, the thunder and lightning were separated again. Lightning flashed, and Enel's body appeared, and he froze for no reason. The other side. Dazzling golden light shines. Admiral Kizaru manifested. Look up at the going arc, which is covered by endless thunderclouds. Such a big going boat, if I give it to the teacher will be happy. Admiral Kizaru nodded secretly. At the same time, Admiral Kuzan, who traveled around the island by bicycle on the ice, also raised his head. After fighting for so long, or I'll drive the ship away first, Mr. Roland must need a lot of treasure to build the base, and it can be regarded as some compensation for Saul. Admiral Kuzan thought to himself. Chapter 203 The Legend of Heroes. The Sensational Marine Headquarters. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. The 3 war-class warships sailed into the Crescent Bay one after the other. Zephyr, Gion and other 3,000 sailors who had won the Battle of Chihojima and returned safely. The report on the Battle of Thousand Sails Island had already been sent to Marine Headquarters by phone bug. The content of the report is very simple, with only a few figures. But it was Ling's entire Marine Headquarters that was sensational. In the Battle of Chinfan Island, our army won a great victory, and the number of casualties was 0. This is the brief report that Gion and Zephyr gave to the Marine Headquarters after consulting with Zephyr. Big win. This is of course an exciting thing to be happy about. But in the end it's a bit of a matter of course. After all, it was former Admiral Zephyr and alternate Admiral Gion who participated in leading the team this time. Naturally, a big win. Not too much beyond people's psychological expectations. What really shocked the entire Marine Headquarters, Marshal Sengoku and others was the report on the death toll. The death toll, 0. This is simply unimaginable. You know, this is war. Not child's play. Does war kill people? Isn't that of course. However, this time, no one died. It's nothing short of a miracle. Even if the pirates in the first half of the Great Route are generally not strong, they shouldn't be so weak. Unprecedented, an unprecedented miracle in the hearts of most sailors. What the hell happened on that island? Entire Marine Headquarters, including Marshal Sengoku, wants to know. Therefore, now, almost all the Marines of the headquarters, led by Marshal Sengoku, are gathered in the harbor, eagerly awaiting the return of the heroes. Under the expectant gaze of all the sailors in the headquarters, 3 warships entered the bay one after another. Be the first. Marine's former admiral, now the school's chief instructor Zephyr stands on the bow. Marine Justice cloak behind him squeaked in the wind. Compared to before the expedition, this battle belongs to Zephyr, who came from 610, and seems to be more than 10 years younger than before. The pressure on people is more than ever. The style of Black Arm Zephyr, which made countless pirates frightened. This change in Zephyr made Sengoku and the Vice Admiral of the headquarters were subconsciously shocked. Suru, look at Zephyr's tut-tut, this high-spirited look, it really has a kind of energy back then. Holding a packet of senbei, Garp happily chatted with the Vice Admiral Crane beside him. Suru Vice Admiral just nodded silently. However, the joy between his eyebrows could not be concealed. Not because of Zephyr's transformation. Not because of the safe return of his sister Guion. But because of this marine miracle with 0 casualties. Because this is a miracle that has reappeared after 36 years. More because of the person who created this miracle. Suru, I bet you a pack of senbei, Zephyr has seen that guy before. Garp swore the decision. Suru Vice Admiral on the side gave Garp a sideways glance in surprise. Garp, when did your brain become so good? Garp's face turned black. It's too much, Suru, my brain has always worked fine, except for that one time 36 years ago. Garp argues. Hee. Suru Vice Admiral smiled. Why are you the same as that guy? Hee, it sounds annoying. Garp said with a dark face. Garp, I heard you contacted Andrew yesterday. Suru Vice Admiral asked abruptly. Yeah, what's wrong? Garp replied subconsciously. After a while, he quickly covered his mouth. However, what has been said, naturally cannot be taken back. Therefore, Rao is Garp's cheeky, and at this moment, he can't help but turn a little red. Suru Vice Admiral chuckled again, Bobby, and a heart-warming smile appeared on his pretty face. Sister today is still as beautiful as ever. Squinting Vice Admiral Yamakaji in the second row exclaimed. Yeah. The veteran Vice Admiral from the Marine headquarters all cheered in unison. All serious. Sengoku, who had a straight face from start to finish, turned his head and glared at the Vice Admirals in the second row. So everyone was silent. Sengoku's face was not very good looking during this time. Vice Admiral of their headquarters did not want to hit the muzzle. Crash Lala. The warship split the waves and finally docked at Crescent Harbor. The whole army stands upright. Marshal Sengoku's voice echoed over the Marine headquarters. So all the seamen in the harbor stood upright. Salute. The sailors brushed together and raised their hands to salute like an overwhelming sea. This is their tribute to the heroes who returned from the war. Regardless of rank. Levi. Zephyr on the bow of the Black Arm warship spoke loudly and officially reported the battle to the headquarters. When Zephyr's voice fell, rumors become reality. The entire Marine headquarters suddenly fell into a boiling ocean. Not only the Navy soldiers on standby at the headquarters, but also the more than 3,000 Navy soldiers on the 3 warships who participated in the battle. The welcome ceremony is complete. The more than 3,000 sailors on the warship could not wait to disembark. Reminiscing with friends from the same period who stayed in the headquarters. The topic of reminiscing the old is naturally inseparable from this battle. So the topic naturally turned to the miracle. Since the superiors did not issue a seal order, the sailors naturally have no scruples. The man who advertised the miracles that appeared in that war to his friends who did not participate in the war. In particular, hundreds of people including Corporal Rhodes and Lai Luo who had received treatment. Commodore Daikin, Rear Admiral, especially Mura, who witnessed the miracle happen with his own eyes. In their mouths. The Luo Lin who caused the miracle is no different from the legendary God 039. 1 past 10, 1000. About, Man of Miracles 039. About the 039 miracle 039 spread throughout the Marine headquarters in just 10 minutes. In the commanding Marine headquarters were shocked. Hey, Bastiu, or all of what you said true? It's really that man's divine blood 039 made all the dying Marines live. Headquarters Elite Vice Admiral shouted with shock on his face. Ah, I can't believe it either, but it's the truth, one counts and one survives. Vice Admiral Bastius, who was involved in the war, spoke. Even though it has been a few days, when it comes to this matter. Bastiu's face under the mask still couldn't hide his shock. The 039 blood 039 that caused the miracle. I seem to have heard from the former Marine seniors. Headquarters Vice Admiral Stoloberg frowned. I've also heard from Vice Admiral before, and it's definitely not the first time this zero-death war miracle has happened in our Marine. Vice Admiral Dalmisia nodded affirmatively. Yeah, decades ago, such a miracle of war really happened more than once. Because of that person. Vice Admiral Yamakaji lamented. At this moment, there was no smile on his face that always had a smile on his face, and there was only infinite shock and disbelief. Yamakaji, what do you mean? No way. Is it really the one in the legend? The legend that our Marine disappeared more than 30 years ago. The legendary hero who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Garp Vice Admiral. Vice Admiral from the Marine headquarters was shocked and couldn't even say a complete sentence. The other side. Miss Guillaume, please marry me. Admiral Chaton Tokikake, the Marine headquarters candidate who has a wretched appearance and has a match with Admiral Kazaru, steps on the moon step and rises to the sky. The set of 720 degrees Thomas fully rotated, and finally fell to one knee on the road in front of Guillaume, holding a bouquet of gorgeous roses in his hands. Scene in the entire headquarters that is not discussing War Miracle 039. It's on again. The Tokikake Vice Admiral is back. Quote. How many times is it this time? Let me count, it should be 98 times. I bet 50 cents that Mr. Tokikake will definitely be rejected this time. I'll add another 50 cents, this time Guillaume Vice Admiral will definitely kick Tokikake Vice Admiral in the face. The nearby sailors stopped talking about the war and began to watch the liveliness here. But it was beyond everyone's expectations. This time, facing Chaton Tokikake's stalker proposal. Vice Admiral Guillaume didn't even take it for granted. Go straight past him. Complete disregard. Guillaume. Vice Admiral Chaton Tokikake, who didn't get scolded and kicked by Guillaume, suddenly felt empty and turned his head in confusion. Chaton Tokikake, Vice Admiral, I advise you to stop bothering me in the future. I already have someone I like. Guillaume rushes to speak before Chaton Tokikake, and at the end, Pretty Face can't help but fly into a few attractive red clouds. Hearing Guillaume's words, Vice Admiral Chaton Tokikake was stunned on the spot as if struck by lightning. So much so that Guillaume didn't even pay attention to the warning from the back of Guillaume to be careful of being beaten. Looking at Chaton Tokikake with a lost face, Vivi raised the corner of Guillaume's mouth, and then quickly followed Garp and the others in front. 3 minutes later. Garp, Sengoku, Suru, Zephyr, 4 veterans of the previous era, plus a Guillaume gathered in the marshal's office. Guillaume was in charge of giving a detailed report on the war. From the start of the raid to the end. Including the capture of the Kid Gang, the beheading of the White 2 Edward Wable for Zephyr are all reported one by one. If so, after half an hour, the report of Guillaume is completed. The entire marshal's office fell into a state of silence. That's it. It's gone. What else? There must be more. Guillaume, you haven't said who healed those seriously wounded sailors. Garp, who didn't hear what he wanted to hear, suddenly became anxious. Mr. Garp, you already have the answer in your mind about this. Guillaume giggled. I know what I know, I just want to hear you say it yourself. Zephyr, you say it. Garp asked. Tell me, what's there to say? Isn't that guy rolling back, making a fuss? Zephyr said angrily. Ha ha ha, it's comfortable. When he finally heard the name from Zephyr's mouth, Garp burst out laughing comfortably. Vice Admiral Crane at the desk also knows Isho. Even Marshal Sengoku, who always had a straight face, was exhaling at this moment. Ha ha ha, Sengoku, you should believe it now. Even after 36 years ago, that guy is still the same as before. He hasn't changed at all. You are still in a hurry during this time. What is there to worry about? Garp started laughing. Ha ha ha, blame me, I think too much. Sengoku waved his hand with a wry smile. When I see Roland next time, I will personally apologize to him. Blue 039. The moment Sengoku's voice fell, the contact phone worm in the office representing a major event suddenly rang. Phone worm connected. Headquarters, this is Maynard, the islands of Sabayati. Just now, there was an emergency in the auction house. No. Tenryubito, the world noble Tenryubito was killed by an unknown person. Chapter 204 Rayleigh, the Pluto who is about to become a slave. Mangrove tree number 13 in the Sabayati Islands. A solitary bar stands on a solitary hill. Shaki's ripping bar. After instructing the black-haired swordsman Lucio and the fishman youth Nobe to take care of the transport ship, Roland and the girl Alice took the lead and came here. Jingle Bell 039. Amidst the crisp ringtone, Alice, a girl in a peaked cap, pushed open the door of the bar first. Agaga, Miss Shaki, we're getting fat. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, whimpered happily. Ever since the humiliation mark behind her disappeared, the girl Alice felt more relaxed. I don't know how many times. So the smile on his face is also, more and more bright. Huh. After a while, the girl Alice gave a startled cry. Because she didn't see Shaki who was supposed to be at the bar. Shaki should be here no matter what. Just like NC in the game, it will never change positions. Are you still sleeping in the back room? The girl Alice secretly guessed. Don't look for it, there's no one else in the bar except us now. Roland's eyes narrowed at Vivi. How could it be? What happened, so that Sister Shaki was dispatched? Could it be that Lay's words were halfway through, and Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, hurriedly covered her mouth? I'm going to contact other intelligence officers to ask for information. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, walked into the dark room 039 of the bar 039. About 3 minutes later, the girl Alice walked out of the small dark room with a slightly solemn look on her pretty face. What's wrong? Roland asked. Sister Shaki's junior mermaid was caught by human traffickers and is now preparing to be auctioned at the number 1 mangrove population auction, so Sister Shaki went there in person. It's really strange, if there was such a thing in the past, didn't Sister Shaki let us do it? Why did you have to go out in person this time? The girl Alice was still puzzled. At the same time, the expression on Luo Lin's face gradually became strange. History is always strikingly similar. Destiny is something that no one can understand. Needless to say, the captured mermaid that the girl Alice inquired about must be the rough-hearted mermaid Kami. Regarding the specific process of his arrest, even if Luo Lin didn't see it with his own eyes, he could guess it roughly. Not so fresh. Could it be that Tenryubito happened to be there at this auction? Luo Lin said casually. Ah. Hear the 3 words Tenryubito. The delicate body of the girl Alice trembled involuntarily. After a while, Ding Ding nodded. Mr. Rollins, there are indeed Tenryubito who have been drawn over. Could it be that Charles Ross again? Roland said. Agaga. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, suddenly widened her beautiful eyes. Mr. Rollins, how do you know? Are you still a prophet? The girl Alice asked in surprise. At this moment, her curiosity about Roland's abilities as a prophet even overwhelmed her fear of Tenryubito. Hee, let's go. Luo Lin took a sip of wine and got up. Go, where? Of course it's the auction house, and it just so happens that I also have something I want to auction. Roland grinned Isho. At this moment, Sabayati Land number 1 mangrove area. As the number 1 lawless zone of the Sabayati Islands. The most famous of the mangroves is naturally the population auction house located in the center of the island. The behind-the-scenes operator is one of Shichibukai, one of the kings, Doflamingo, the largest intermediary in the underground dark world. That's why this auction house, which is engaged in illegal human trafficking, has been able to exist forever. Not only did Marine fail to deal with it, it even called it a job referral agency. Disgusting indeed. Now, in the darkest slave trade center in Sabayadi, there is an auction going on. The director of the human auction hall. He wears a high hat, star-shaped sunglasses, and has long pink-purple hair. Disco, the auctioneer known as the Walking Super Special Auction, is standing on the spotlight stage at this moment, enthusiastically and unrestrainedly introducing various products to the crowded rich people. As the auction hammer in the hands of the auction master fell, bye-bye 039 legal 039 population auction was sold. Why does this kind of place appear in this world so openly? How is it possible on Marine's side? Why don't you care? Looking at the poor people being auctioned off one after another on the auction table. Zero flowers. Especially when I witness a cute little loli less than 10 years old being mercilessly commodified. Vivi finally couldn't help but speak. Her pretty face was ashen, and her body trembled involuntarily. The world isn't always bright and beautiful, little Vivi. Shaki sighed with a lady's cigarette in his mouth. The years you have seen along the way are quiet, but that person avoided it for you. I know, but I still. Vivi's voice gradually choked. Vivi. Robin and Koala held Vivi's cold little hands, left and right. I am sorry, it's all because of us that I have troubled you. Hachi, covered in a large black robe, lowered his head. Don't apologize, Kami is also our friend. We will definitely buy her back this time. We have plenty of funds. Nami said confidently. It seemed calm on the surface, but at this moment her mood was not much different from Vivi's. Nami, thank you so much. Octopus Hachi and Starfish Papago in the clothes expressed their gratitude in unison. When the boss comes back, he will definitely let him carry this nasty place. Little lowly going Joe waved her small fist angrily. Absolutely. As well as the money spent, it should be spit out double. Here. The little girls had a heated discussion about how to deal with this illegal population auction. On the other side, on the auction table, the wooden hammer of professional auction master Disco fell again, and another transaction was completed at a satisfactory price. Then let's move on to the next item of display. The stage, the loud voice of Disco, which inherited the bells and whistles of the young master Doflamingo, spread throughout the audience. 039 Wolala. The sound of the chain mopping the floor sounded. An old man with gray hair and beard, full of energy and a sturdy figure was brought to the auction by two masked men. What the hell are you doing, you bastard? Lao Lei. When you see the old man on the stage that is about to be auctioned publicly. Shaki's complexion, who had been motionless in the back row, changed suddenly. Chapter 205 Rayleigh's smile fades away. Old Lei, you old bastard, what the hell are you doing with a plane? When he saw the burly old man appearing on the auction stage, Shaki, who had been motionless in the back row of the auction hall, suddenly changed his face. There was no longer the calmness on his face that he was used to seeing before. From the initial astonishment, to the widened eyes in shock, all of them turned into annoyance, beyond words. 039 crunch 039. It was the sound of Shaki's teeth rubbing and biting. Kaka 039. It was the armrest of the chair in the auction hall, the sound of being crushed by Shaki with one hand. Shaki's sudden change made the little girls such as Robin and Koala on the side look surprised. After all, from knowing Shaki till now, except for the initial meeting with Rollins, the little girls have never seen Shaki with such violent mood swings. In their impression, Shaki has always been a 533, intellectual big sister. An expert who can master the general trend of the world without leaving home. Yet now, Shaki, who has always been motionless, competes. What exactly is going on? Is it because of the old man who appeared on the auction table? Carefully heard Shaki talking to himself earlier, looked suspicious, and his delicate pretty face was puzzled. His eyes fell on the old man on the stage. Even for a moment. Somehow, she always felt that the handsome old man on the auction platform seemed a little familiar. It wasn't just Robin who felt the same way. There is also Koala on the side. After seeing the old man with white hair and white beard and a long and narrow scar on his eyes, Koala also unconsciously gave birth to a sense of familiarity. As if I had seen it somewhere. But I can't remember it for a while. That person. While Robin and Koala were searching the memories deep in their minds, Hachi, the octopus sitting on the edge, suddenly stood up. Hachi the octopus not recognized the handsome old man on stage. After all, it was the 8-year-old who fished the seriously injured old man out of the sea 20 years ago. That person is the Pluto Rayleigh. The legendary pirate, One Piece king of pirates Roger's right hand. The deputy captain of the Roger Pirates. Hades Rayleigh. Now it has been auctioned as a commodity. What a crazy event this is. Calm down the octopus Hachi. At this moment, the octopus Hachi's heart is like a river overturned. An emotion called shock took over his body. Hachi, what's the matter with you? Is there anything special about that old man? Nami squinted. Rayleigh, whose eyes were full of shock, asked in confusion. That man, he. Octopus Hachi stuttered. The next moment, a look from Shaki made him quickly cover his mouth. Nami, I'm sorry, there are too many people here, I'll tell you in detail when I go back. Octopus Hachi rode. All right then. Although Nami was also curious. But don't force it. The most important thing right now is to buy Kami back. Everything else can go back a little bit. Amid Shaki's shame and Robin Koala's curious contemplation, the auction master Disco on the stage also started to explain and sell, Pluto 039. As you can see, this is a young man who is wrong, an old man of spirit, with healthy limbs, no disease or disaster, and a lot of strength. As the saying goes, there is an old man in the family. If there is a treasure, forget it. Now the auction will start. The reserve price is 500,000 berry, and the increase is not less than 10,000 berry each time. Speaking of which, even the most professional auctioneer can't keep up. After all, no matter how you look at it, this is an ordinary old man with a little muscle. Had to hastily announce the start of the auction. Hey, host, this is too hurtful. I have to introduce myself well. For example, I'm handsome, so that the price will be higher. Seeing that the auctioneer was perfunctory, the old man who was the auction item on the stage immediately opened his mouth with dissatisfaction. In amazement, and the corners of his mouth twitched involuntarily. Who is this person? He has been doing population auctions for so many years. The auction items handled were not 10,000 but also 8,000. But I have never seen such a calm auction item. Do not. Or arrogant. This is a population auction. You are a commodity about to be enslaved. At least know who you are. How can anyone be a victim, and they will worry about making less money for others when they are sold? Simply unbelievable. The auction master Disco sounded angrily. Plus seconds 3 seconds minutes past 0 the whole venue is still quiet. No one was willing to bid for this narcissistic old man. Are there really no bids? Disco asked. No. Quick next. We are here for the mermaid, hurry up and take this unsightly old guy down. We're going to see the merman. The dissatisfied shouts of people suddenly sounded all over the venue. This embarrassing situation suddenly made Disco feel more and more angry. Is it working for so many years? My first time is the first pass on this narcissistic old guy. Look, just because you didn't introduce it well, no one was willing to bid, alas. The old man, who was bound by the special slave shackles on the stage side, gropingly took out the small jug hidden in his arms, and took a sip to himself. Watching this scene, the inner anger of the auction master Disco was ignited. If not for being in the spotlight, even if he lost money, he would press the explosion button on his collar to blow this nasty old guy to pieces to vent his anger. No way. Auctioneer Disco took a few deep breaths, calmed down his inner anger, and prepared to knock on the table as an unsold item. 500,000 inches. At this moment, a rich woman and nobleman with a fat waist and a strong body in the front row raised the number plate in his hand and made an offer. Willows and flowers brighten another village. I thought my first time would be gone, but I managed to keep it. Disco's originally gloomy face 13 suddenly bloomed like a flower. The lady has bid 500,000, is there anything higher? Disco, who saw hope, asked casually. Really, just casually, just ask. The kind without any hope. But the next moment, something unexpected happened. Just when he was about to simplify the original three-hammer decision into a one-shot deal and send away this unsightly old man. In the back row corner of the auction hall, someone raised the number plate. 1 million. Hearing that voice, the entire auction hall was silent. Look, all. The spiritual old man on the stage was complacent and ready to brag about himself. However, the next moment, he saw the bidder in the shadow of the back row. As a result, the smile on the old face instantly solidified and stiffened. In the end, there is only endless embarrassment. Don Quixote Cadres auctioned at the Doflamingo venue. 1 million. When Shaggy's calm voice sounded, the entire venue was involuntarily silent. Swish. For a while, I don't know how many lines of sight looked towards Shaggy in the back row. Wanting to see who is taking advantage of him, he is willing to spend 1 million yuan to buy a useless old man with half of his body buried in the ground. Captain, that person seems to be the proprietress of the Mangrove number 13 who beat us up. A member of the Heart Pirates, the talking white bear Babo said with a look of surprise. It turned out to be her. The captain of the Heart Pirates, the supernova Trafalgar Law with a reward of over 100 million, narrowed his eyes at Vivi. That old woman is not an ordinary person. The person she likes, even if it is an old man, will definitely not be ordinary people. Could it be that the old man still hides his identity? This boring auction is finally starting to be interesting. Trafalgar Law grinned. The other direction. The supernova cluster headed by the magician Hawkins is also looking at it. Captain Hawkins, what's so special about that old man on stage? Don't know. Magician Hawkins spoke calmly. 10 raising his hand, he took a tarot card from the straw branch in front of him. Chaos card. Hee, last time I miscalculated about that kid, but I won't make it again this time. In today's auction, there will be many unexpected events happening. Magician Hawkins laughed. Looked at Tenryubito, who was surrounded and protected by heavily armed soldiers in the front row. From that Tenryubito, Hawkins saw a big dead word. Fun. The smile on Hawkins' mouth widened a little. For gazes from all over the venue. Shaggy didn't realize it. From the beginning to the end, her eyes were only firmly locked on the white-haired old man on the stage. While Shaggy looked at Rayleigh on the stage, Rayleigh was also aware of Shaggy's existence. 4 eyes facing each other. The atmosphere was awkward to the point of freezing. Of Shaggy's mouth in the back row of the venue raised a slight arc, and he raised his chin proudly. Rayleigh's face on the auction table gradually solidified and disappeared, and in the end there was only an embarrassment on his face. Silent for a long time. Oh. Excited screams from the auctioneer Disco broke the silence. The lady offered 1 million, is there anything higher? Disco asked loudly again. But this time, it's not just casual remarks before, but really expecting someone to come up with a higher price. As expected. Initially offered 51,10,000. Barry gritted her teeth and raised her number plate again. 101,000. Her shouting hadn't completely subsided. Shaki in the back row has already raised his number plate. 2 million. 039 wow 039. The audience was in uproar again. The fat and rich woman in the front row snorted coldly and glared at Shaki fiercely. I had no choice but to give up the idea of trying out the old muscle man. 2 million first, times 2 million seconds, 2 million thirds. Deal. On the auction table, Disco did not delay any longer, and the final decision was made. Announcing the establishment of the transaction. Ha ha ha, old man, you are so proud that there are really rich women who can see you. Disco laughed. At this moment, the look he looked at Rayleigh no longer had the initial disgust. After all, the current Rayleigh is a humanoid berry worth 2 million. Although the auction transaction price this time was average, only a mere 2 million yuan, but it has far exceeded his psychological expectations. For a master auctioneer, the greatest joy is to auction a low-priced product for a high price that is several times its own value. The 039 product, which was originally intended to pass the auction, was 4 times the starting price in a blink of an eye. For auctioneer Disco, it's natural to be happy. Auctioneer Disco was delighted. Rayleigh, who was an auction item, couldn't smile. No longer the original calm and calm. Ha ha ha. The smile on Disco's face grew even wider when he saw Rayleigh finally showing his proper expression as a commodity. Ding 039. Next second. An invisible aura of oppression suddenly emerged from Rayleigh, covering the auction table. So the smile on the auctioneer Disco's face suddenly solidified. When Rayleigh walked into the backstage, the unconscious auctioneer Disco fell straight under the stage. Old Ray. Huh. Shaki grinned Isho softly. Supernova's Talfagar Law, Hawkins and others all stood up suddenly, with extreme shock and disbelief on their faces. Although it was only a short moment before. That breath didn't even spread, it just converged. But stronger than them, they still felt a trace. What the hell was going on then? Is it Conqueror Hockey, a mere 039 slave 039? Compared to the shock of Trafalgar Law et al. The average person at the venue naturally couldn't feel it too much, just thought it was because the auctioneer was too hard to faint. On this side of the auction house, there was a lot of auctioneer number 2 who came on the bench and proceeded as usual. Time passed by minute. The auction at the front desk continues. Backstage at Rayleigh's Conqueror, the comatose Disco finally woke up before the end of the auction under the alternating stimulation of cold water and ice block. Damn, what the hell is going on? My head hurts. The awakened auctioneer Disco shook his head sharply. I just felt a pain in my head. Mr. Disco, Mr. Disco. At this moment, an auction house employee shouted anxiously. Do what? Disco said angrily. No, Mr. Disco, what I want to report is that just now, a seller came to us, hoping to use our venue to auction, one person. Auctioneers reported. Borrow the venue. If you don't borrow it or not, let him get out. Disco scolded angrily. Mr. Disco, that person said that the person he is going to auction this time is worth 100 million, and he can give us a 20% commission. Hissing, what are you talking about? Heard. Disco, the auctioneer who had a splitting headache before, suddenly widened his eyes in shock. His face was full of shock, excitement and disbelief. Really worth 100 million? Is there really a 20% rake? Is it another female fish? Quickly invite him in. Auctioneer Disco rubbed his hands in excitement. The stimulation of 20 million profit and 193 profit, even the head is not so painful. Ta-ta. With the sound of footsteps. The auction staff led a man and a woman to the backstage of the venue. This gentleman, are you saying that you want to auction the goods worth 100 million? Auctioneer Disco rubbed his hands and looked flatteringly at Roland in front of him. Not 100 million. Roland spoke calmly. The smile on Disco's face stagnated, and he was about to curse. 100 million is less than a little, at least it can be worth 99 million. Roland added. 039 ba 039. Auctioneer Disco slammed his mouth and swallowed the swear words. The old flattering smile appeared on his face again. 99 million is good. I'm not boasting. With my eloquence, I can definitely increase the value of the customer's goods by 20%. That's a good feeling, Roland laughed. Yes, then I wonder if you can let me slap your eyes first with your products. Disco asked. Roland nodded. He threw the blood-stained sack on the ground. Several auction house employees hurriedly undid the mouth of the sack, revealing the bloody, even partially decomposed corpse. Ah! Screams erupted all at once. This person. Auctioneer Disco looked at the corpse in the sack, his eyes gradually widening under his sunglasses. Ah! A shrill scream came from his wide-open mouth. Lord Diamante. Chapter 207 The Shock and Excitement of the Mermaid Kami. Ton Diamante. This is the top cadre of the family, Lord Diamante. When recognizing the identity of the corpse in the sack, Disco, the head of the population auction and the chief auctioneer, suddenly looked terrified and couldn't help but shouted. At this moment, there was no longer the repulsive, flattering smile on his face. Some just extreme fear and horror. Cold sweat soaked his body in an instant. The fear in my heart is like a tide, and it can't stop overflowing. His footsteps unknowingly retreated again and finally fell on the wall. How can Lord Diamante die? He is the highest cadre of the family. Disco's head shook like a rattle. No, this must be an illusion, I must still be dreaming, wake me up. Auctioneer Disco slapped himself sharply. Show no mercy. After a slap, half of his face swelled at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if half a bun was stuffed in his mouth. Disco, the auctioneer, breathed a sigh of relief from the severe pain from the facial nerve. Ha, sure enough. Auctioneer Disco's babbling stopped abruptly after seeing the sack of corpse that still existed on the ground. What's the matter, chief auctioneer of the population auction, isn't auctioning pirates your forte? This head worth 99 million berry, will you take it or take it? Roland asked with a smile. Ah. Look at the smile on Roland's face. Auctioneer Disco showed a terrified expression as if he had seen the most terrifying thing in the world, and shouted unconsciously. You killed Lord Diamante, the young master will not let you go. Against our Don Quixote family, you will not end well. Auctioneer Disco stammered. This situation is the most terrifying experience he has ever encountered in his life. Someone killed the top cadre of their Don Quixote family, and even took the cadre's body and asked him to auction it. How bold is this? Auction your own senior cadres at your own venue. How unprecedented is this? This is a provocation to their Don Quixote family's most red fruit. Those who did this kind of thing will inevitably be punished by their Don Quixote family. By their young master, King Chichibukai da Flamingo. Agaga, Mr. Roland, this guy seems to be frightened. Jew. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, looked at the raving auctioneer Disco, and a hint of pleasure flashed on her face. Human traffickers are definitely the worst. Demographic auctioneers like Disco are also disgusting. Sir Diamante is finished, the young master will be furious. In the worst case, even. Ta 039. Just when the auctioneer Disco was delirious because of excessive fear. A clear footstep exploded, it was like stepping on his head. Sound like thunder. His babbling stopped in the summer. 039 boom. Conqueror that stuns the mind rushes out. Cracks appeared on the walls of Ling's backstage room. Little devil, you have a lot to say. If you have anything else to say, leave it to the auction table to say it. Roland spoke quietly. Gah, yes. The shock of Roland's special conqueror. Auctioneer Disco widened his eyes in horror. He wouldn't dare to do anything like auctioning off the bodies of his senior cadres at his own auction house. But under the deterrence of that power, He could not have the slightest objection, and he accepted it obediently. The road continued rolling and crawling, and grabbed the sack on the ground and rushed out the door. Agaga, in that clown's sight auctioning off his own men, this scene must be very interesting. I am now looking forward to the expression of that pesky clown when he finds out about this. Mr. Luo Lin, let's also go to the auction venue to see the excitement. The girl Alice suggested. Haha, I'm not in a hurry to watch the fun. Roland smiled. Oh, I almost forgot. The most important thing right now is to rescue Sister Shaki's younger mermaid friends. The girl Alice said. Roland grinned. In addition to saving the merman Kami, Roland also found another interesting thing in the current venue. Come on, Mr. Roland, I'm familiar with this place, and I probably know where they keep the auctioneers. The girl Alice took the first 3 or 2 steps to go out and greeted Luo Lindao. Come on. Roland raised his foot, steps to keep up. The road into the broken bamboo. The shock of conqueror hockey emanating from Roland. The auction house guards along the way didn't even snort at all, they all fell to the ground in a coma. After a minute, the girl Alice brought Roland to the prison at the venue. The prison, which had been full, was now empty. Because most of the commodities have been auctioned out, they were taken to another goods waiting area 039. At this moment, there are only 2 guards here, and a young fish girl kept in a transparent glass tank. How to do? Why hasn't it been ordered yet? A guard frowned. Counting the time, it should have started. The other guard was also puzzled. At this moment, 2 people appeared in their sight. Hey, you guys. 2 guards stepped forward alertly. However, they didn't wait for them to ask aloud. Next second. With the proliferation of surging conqueror hockey, the last 2 guards at the auction venue were stiff, their eyes rolled, and they fell to the ground in a coma. Girl Kami, don't sleep, it's time to go home. Luo Lin stepped forward and shouted at the autistic mermaid girl in the glass 039 fish tank 039. That voice. In a glass fish tank. The body is bent 90 degrees, and the autistic mermaid Kami's delicate body is lightly trembling. Hearing the familiar voice in her ear, her already deeply desperate heart suddenly trembled. Good money. This warm voice. Mermaid Kami raised her head blankly, looking at the friendly smiling face in front of her. Her despair was gradually replaced by shock, excitement, and the joy of the rest of her life. You Mr. Rollins. Mermaid Kami unconsciously raised her slender hand to cover her mouth, stubbornly preventing her tears of excitement from falling. Agaga, Miss Kami, it's better to cry if you want to cry. Girl Alice smiling. Woohoo. Under Alice's persuasion, the tears in the big eyes of the mermaid Kami burst out like a burst dam. Mr. Roland, it's really nice to see you again, and I'm really sorry for causing you trouble. Mermaid Kami cried and apologized loudly to Roland. Don't cry, I'll take this restraint off for you right away. Roland's fingertips rested on the metal collar around Kami's neck. Don't tuck. Chapter 208 Shocking the big event. The whole place was silent. Don't. Just as Roland's fingertips landed on the collar on the neck of the mermaid Kami, who had been encouraging and comforting Kami with a smile on her face, suddenly changed her expression and hurriedly shouted to stop. Roland turned his head to look at the girl Alice. Vivi raised her eyebrows. It counted as a question. No, this collar can't be taken off by forceful means, it will explode. This is the means used by the nobles to restrain powerful slaves. If you want to remove the collar, you must find the key. The girl Alice explained hastily. Our heart. The mermaid Kami's eyes widened in horror. The scene of his head bursting unconsciously appeared in his mind, so his eyes almost popped out of their sockets in shock. Wait for me, the key should be on them, I'll look for it right away. The girl Alice said. Sorry for your troubles, sister. Mermaid Kami nodded again and again. After about half a minute. After fumbling around on the fallen two guards, the girl Alice let out a surprised coquettish cry. Holding the collar key he found high in his hand, he turned around happily. "Kami, the key is okay." The girl Alice stopped abruptly before she could finish speaking. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at the boss, staring blankly at Kami's white neck. As if seeing the most incredible thing in the world, the pretty face is full of shock and disbelief. "Sister, what's the matter with you?" She looked at Alice, the girl who was suddenly sluggish. Mermaid Kami tilted her head in confusion. "Kami, where's the collar on your neck?" The girl Alice raised her slender hand mechanically and pointed to Kami's empty collar. "The collar, it's not in alas tilde shinxin tilde." The mermaid Kami, who has always been rough, lowered her head subconsciously. Kami screamed in surprise when she saw her neck freed from the explosive collar. The eyeballs in a pair of big eyes and the tongue in the mouth almost pop out, showing amazing facial expressions. Seeing Kami's astonished performance at this time, the girl Alice was suddenly speechless. "I thought that this mermaid girl was too nervous." He didn't even know when the explosive collar on his neck was gone. But what the hell is going on? Full of shock and puzzlement, the girl Alice's eyes fell on the bottom of the glass fish tank. There are many small black fragments faintly visible there. "Is it?" The girl Alice suddenly turned her head and looked at Roland. Hee, it's just an explosion collar. Little girl, who do you think I am?" Roland grinned isho, and took out the mermaid Kami, who was still in a state of shock and sluggishness, from the fish tank. "Come on, let's take you guys to see another interesting thing before watching the excitement of the auction." At this moment, the main venue at the front desk of the population auction. The auction table has been silent for a long time. There were whispers under the auction table. In addition, there are loud scoldings from pirates and domineering nobles. The auction's grand finale, the long-awaited juvenile fish item that most people here have been waiting for, has been a long time coming. Naturally, a lot of dissatisfaction will arouse. There are many people who are bound to win the young fish. Most of them are the rich and domineering aristocrats from all over the world. These people, who are used to being arrogant and domineering on weekdays, have been able to wait patiently until now, which is extremely patient. By now, it has basically reached its limit. Impatient compared to others. Robin, Vivi and the others all had anxious and worried expressions on their pretty faces at the moment. After all, their purpose here is to save their friend Kami. 99% of the people present were true to the wealth they had acquired on the dread bark. Not to mention that they have a huge Chinese organization behind them. The only thing they are afraid of now is what happens before the auction starts. "Why so slow? Haven't come out yet?" Nami clenched her fists, frowning worriedly. "Kami, Octopus Hachi and the Starfish Papagu are getting depressed." "Don't worry, it will be all right." Koala nodded affirmatively, cheering for his friends. 039 Pat 039, Pat 039. At this time, the spotlights on the auction platform, which had been silent for a long time, were lit up, attracting the attention of the entire venue. At the same time, the people at the venue were all excited. The bright spotlight shone down, reflecting the pale face and trembling body of auctioneer Disco. "Hey, Disco, where's the merman? Hurry up and show it to the uncles," someone shouted. "We've been waiting for a long time. Don't say that the merman in the finale is gone," someone threatened. "Hey, Disco bastard, say something." The whole place was buzzing. "Humble mortals, ants, all noisy, shut up for me." Tenryubito Charles Ross, with a stupid pig face, a bubble mask, and a snot under his nose, shouted angrily. In an instant, the whole place was silent. After all, that was Tenryubito, the most distinguished noble in the world. If you are a little offended, you will provoke Admiral from the Marine headquarters, and no one wants to provoke it for no reason. The mortals of the auction house, quickly bring this sage's mermaid up. This mermaid, I will order it. Tenryubito Charles Ross swore to speak. On the auction table. Auctioneer Disco turned his head and glanced at the angry Tenryubito. Indeed, Tenryubito's rage was terrifying. Right now, however, nothing was more terrifying than what he was about to do. Do not. Maybe only death. Die and live. How to choose? The answer is obvious at a glance. Disco bit the tip of his tongue heavily, using the pain to calm himself down briefly. Dear guests, I'm very sorry for making you wait for a long time. This time the finale mermaid will take a while. Auctioneer Disco rode. What did you say? Wait a little longer. Are you kidding us? The venue is boiling again. Why wait? Did something really happen? Both Vivi and Nami looked anxious. Don't panic, little girls, there's something wrong with that auctioneer, let's take a look at it for now. Shaki spoke soothingly. Guests. On the auction table, Disco gritted his teeth, seemed to make up his mind, and spoke again. Although the mermaid at the finale was unable to arrive on time, our auction site has received another item that was temporarily blocked. Please see. The auctioneer gritted his teeth, stomped his feet, and ruthlessly shook off the sack he was holding in his arms. A bloody corpse appeared in everyone's sight. Fuck, what are you doing? Corpse. What kind of lot is this? Disco bastard, even if you want to fool, you have to find something decent. What do you mean by looking for a corpse? The nobles at the venue scolded one after another. Tenryubito in the VIP table was already furious. Not right. At this moment, someone in the front row of the venue suddenly shouted loudly. Look at that corpse, that. Someone recognized the identity of the corpse, and an extremely shocked expression suddenly appeared on his face. That's right, this time the item that was temporarily added to the auction is the head of Diamante, the top cadre of the Don Quixote family, with a bounty of 99 million berries. Auctioneer Disco took a deep breath and yelled out regardless. In an instant, the audience fell into absolute silence. The emotion called shock spreads rapidly. Chapter 209. The Shocked Pluto Rayleigh. This auction item is the head of the great pirate Diamante, the top cadre of the Don Quixote family, with a bounty as high as 99 million berries. Auctioneer Disco took a deep breath and used all his strength to shout and announce. Through the blessing of the microphone, the sharp sound was multiplied and rumbled over the entire venue. Deafening. The huge auction venue fell into an absolute silence as the words of Disco fell. An emotion called shock spread throughout the venue. It quickly spread to all corners of the venue. His heart. Sizzle heart. Sizzle after a moment. The sound of people gasping for air rang out one after another throughout the venue. One after another, incessantly. Unbelievable, it turned out to be the head of a big pirate with a bounty of 99 million. What's the use of auctioning this kind of thing? That's right, if it's alive, I really want a great pirate slave with a bounty of nearly 100 million. Yeah, if you die, you'll have no value at all. Even if the auction is done, is it still higher than his 620 inches bounty? With this head, it's better to take it to Marine to exchange the bounty for the convenience. That's right, I still want to see mermaids. In the eastern corner, wealthy businessmen from various regions expressed their opinions in shock. Hey, I said you guys, is this your focus? A black suit boss in the adjacent area suddenly stood up. The cigar in his mouth fell unconsciously. That's not the point, so what's the point? Someone asked disdainfully. Didn't you hear it just now? That pirate who died and was auctioned off as Diamante, the top cadre of the Don Quixote family. Another exclaimed exaggeratedly. So what? I've heard of the Don Quixote family, is that Shichibukai Doflamingo? Then do you know who this auction house belongs to? Who? The boss behind this population auction venue is that Don Quixote Doflamingo. What did you say? Down pointing arrow. Nani? How could such a thing happen? Until this time, after hearing the explanation of others, the wealthy businessmen from all over the world suddenly stood up in shock. was shocked by this news to the point where it can't be added. The conversation here is like a primer. After a while, everyone in the entire auction venue knew this key point. So the shock on people's faces was even worse. Hey, disco bastard, you bastard. You dare to auction off the heads of your own cadres. The man who was familiar with the auctioneer Disco shouted with a ridiculous look on his face. This is the place of the Don Quixote family. It's really interesting to be able to encounter such a thing, ha ha ha. Someone is laughing. Crazy, auctioning off your own senior cadres at your own venue. Aren't you really afraid of your own boss, Doflamingo? There was an uproar in the audience. This bizarre incident that is happening now has attracted the attention of everyone in the audience. As a result, the mermaid, the final product that people were worried about and looked forward to, is no longer mentioned at this moment. Captain Hawkins, what the hell is going on? Is that auctioneer really crazy? Doflamingo will never let him go after doing such a thing. The pirates of the Hawkins pirates screamed. I don't know if the auctioneer is crazy or not. I only know that this auction is getting more and more interesting now. The magician Hawkins, who had always been expressionless in the past, had a rare crazy smile on his face. The person who killed Diamante, intimidated the auctioneer to do such absurd things, and slapped Doflamingo in the face has not yet appeared. What more interesting things will happen next? Magician Hawkins opened his mouth expectantly. Captain, is that person really that Diamante? That Diamante is dead. What the hell is going on? A fighter of the Heart Pirates, the White Bear Babo with a bounty of 500 berries screamed in shock. Unbelievable, this auction house should be Don Quixote's property, right? How could such a thing happen? The youth with a hunting cap murmured unconsciously. Captain, what to do? Penguin Hat Pekin looked at Trafalgar Law. What should I do? Of course, continue to watch the show. A happy laugh on the face of Death Surgeon Trafalgar Law. Diamante, you bastard also has today. Although I don't know who killed you, thank you anyway. Diamante is only the first one, and you're next, Doflamingo, although I'd love to kill you personally, but I'm still a long way off, and I wouldn't mind if someone could do it for me. You who killed Mr. Corazon, the Don Quixote family, are not far from destruction. Trafalgar Law said coldly, his eyes flashing with madness. Boss, big event. The staff of the World Economic News newspaper, who was in charge of collecting materials for the auction, changed their previous drowsy state and contacted the President Morgans on the phone with an excited face. What the hell happened? Asked Morgans across from the phone bug. The disco at the Mangrove Population Auction Room No. 1 in the Sabayati Islands is now auctioning off the top cadre of the Don Quixote family, the head of Diamante. What did you say? Morgans exclaimed in shock. The back row of the auction venue. Shaki, Robin, Koala and other little girls are also looking at the performance on the auction stage with shock and astonishment at the moment. What's the matter? Vivi asked blankly. Is that auctioneer crazy? Nami guessed. No. Koala shook her head suddenly, and her delicate face showed an uplifting color. I am back. The corner of Robin's mouth raised a beautiful arc, and his heart was completely put down. Ah, yeah, Diamante is the guy's target, and since the target is here, he should come back too. Shaki also chuckled and breathed a sigh of relief. It's back. Vivi and Nami looked at each other. Although the response was half a beat, they finally fully reacted. Rolling is back. This is really good. Nami and Vivi hugged happily, their pretty faces full of joy and excitement. Really, couldn't it be earlier? Shaki shook his head slightly, and immediately seemed to think of something, and the expression on Shaki's face gradually became subtle. Laole, how are you feeling now? A look of anticipation appeared on Shaki's face. At this moment, the slave waiting room on the right side of the auction venue. This is the temporary holding place for the slaves who were successfully bought. After waiting for the buyer to pay successfully, they will be able to buy their commodity slaves. since it is a slave waiting room. The atmosphere in the house is naturally not very good. The thought of immediately becoming a slave to others. The room was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere of despair. It seems to be a little lively outside. The muscular old man with white beard and hair trembled, his legs trembling, and he seemed to be restless. This is also of course. After all, the first time to be a thief 039 was to be caught on the spot. Who can resist this? Originally, I wanted to go to any rich woman's house to get some money to spend. This time it's good. His plan to rob wealth is over before it begins. The money is not in hand. Instead, he still owes 2 million in debts. No doubt that the 2 million that Shaki took for him will definitely be credited to himself. The future, he will definitely be ridiculed by Shaki more than once. 06 How does this work? Thought here. The old man, known as the Pluto, stared at him, raised his head and started drinking. The jug was instantly empty. I'm not playing anymore, I'm still playing a fart here. Hades Rayleigh got up impatiently. Then being led away and ridiculed by Shaki, it is better for him to go first now. Hiding outside for a few months, it's not too late to go back after 039's limelight has passed. Thinking of the Hades Rayleigh here, he nodded and walked towards the gate without hesitation. Hey, old man over there, what are you trying to do? If you go too far, the collar around your neck will explode. A giant prisoner in the slave waiting room kindly reminded. It's all right, I'll just go a little farther and take off a collar, and I'll take it off for you later. Pluto Rayleigh waved his hand indifferently. Oh, Rayleigh, you've become more and more helpful after all these years, so would you like to help me by the way? With a click, the door of the iron cage opened, revealing the 3 people outside the door. Rayleigh. Chapter 210 Zon Rayleigh rages on the street. Population auction venue, slave waiting area. There was a gloomy cloud in the huge prison cell. Despair is growing, spread among the population. Among the desperate crowds, there was one exception. It was an old muscular man with white hair and beard. His true identity is the legendary great pirate, Hades Silbas Rayleigh. At this moment, the former One Piece King of Pirates Captain frowned, drinking his jug. Then he got up and walked towards the door naturally. Father, I advise you not to go too far, your head will explode. A giant prisoner kindly reminded. Thanks for the reminder, but don't worry. Pluto Rayleigh waved his hand indifferently. I'll pick it up for you when I'm done picking my own, so don't worry, Rayleigh added. Giant prisoner. Did I mean this? Etc. The giant prisoner seemed to finally realize something, and suddenly a pair of copper bells widened his eyes. Father, you just said you were going to take off this explosive collar. How is this possible? The giant prisoner looked terrified. 10 inches yeah, old man, don't just die. I once saw a man blow his whole head off because he wanted to take off his collar. Is he really going to die? Another prisoner stared wide-eyed, his face full of horror. Rayleigh involuntarily. Many people opened their mouths, but in the end said nothing. Not because of indifference, but numbness. Anyway, I'm about to live a life that is worse than death. It would be better to die happily like this stubborn old man. Under the numb gazes of people, Rayleigh's fingers gradually approached the collar between his necks. The mighty armament hockey condensed at his fingertips, about to destroy the collar structure from within. Kakaka 039. At this moment, there was a sudden sound of clicking in the silent and dead cell. It wasn't that the collar around Rayleigh's neck shattered. It was the sound of the cell door. The reserve slaves in the cell turned their heads dully and looked in the direction of the gate. Rayleigh also paused his movements and looked at the door. The door hasn't fully opened yet. A full-fledged voice sounded first from outside the door. Rayleigh, I haven't seen you for so many years. You bastard are really helpful. If so, why don't you come and help me? Roland's voice came as the door opened. Wait for the voice to fall. The door is also completely open. 3 people appeared in the sight of the prepared slaves inside the door. To be precise, it is a man and a woman. The prisoners in the house all widened their eyes and looked at the 3 Luo Lin outside the door without blinking, watching the guards at their feet. Zhang Zhang's face was full of shock and disbelief. Alice, the girl in a peaked cap outside the door, also widened her beautiful eyes, her small mouth opened into a zero shape, and her gaze was firmly locked on the old muscular man with an explosive collar inside the door. The atmosphere in the room was extremely quiet. Good half sound, teacher. Alice's voice rose more than an octave. Ah tilde Shinkson. Also screaming in surprise was the mermaid Kami hanging on Roland's back. You are Grandpa Lei. Teacher, why are you here? What the hell is going on here? And the explosive collar around your neck, who caught you? Who in this world has such power? At this moment, Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, seemed to be the incarnation of 100,000 wise. His mouth was like fried beans, and he kept asking one shocking question after another. However, Rayleigh didn't seem to have heard of his disciple Alice's repeated questions. Not deliberately ignoring it out of embarrassment. It was because his mind really didn't have time to pay attention to his cheap disciples. At this moment, the sight of this old man with an amazing hidden identity was only locked on the man outside the door. Once followed One Piece King of Pirates Roger, the deputy captain who has experienced countless storms. As the legendary great pirate, the right hand of One Piece King of Pirates who conquered the Great Route together with Roger. Hades, Silba's Rayleigh. The pair of old eyes under his glasses opened slowly but unable to restrain himself. His chin also drooped down little by little at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if to separate from his body. The wind and rain of most of my life came. The old man's state of mind that he did not panic, was calm, and did not change his color when Mount Tai collapsed in front of him collapsed at this moment. The expression called shock has not appeared on his old face for 2+ years. Yet now, it seems to fill the vacancy of these 20 years. A shocked expression swept across his old face. It eventually spread to his limbs. In his heart, in his mind, there were waves of stormy waves. It made his thinking stagnate. You. Rayleigh stared at Roland outside the door, unable to say a word. Rayleigh, no matter what, you are one of the legends. You can't even say a word. You are really old. Roland grinned Isho and joked casually. You bastard, you are not dead. Stimulated by Roland's words and ridicule, Rayleigh's old face turned. 623 turned the shock in his heart into this sentence and blurted out. The full-bodied, loud voice echoed in the cell for a long time. Hey, Rayleigh, you and everyone else, do you need to make such a fuss? Who told you I'm dead? I'm just tired, so I'm just looking for a place to sleep. Roland spoke quietly. Go to sleep. Rayleigh's throat choked, nearly spewing out a mouthful of old blood. It must have been 36 years ago since you disappeared as a bastard. You call it sleep, for a while. Whoever sleeps, sleeps for 36 years. Rayleigh frantically complained in his heart. The whole person is in a messy state. I said, Rayleigh, you're so miserable now, how about you come to me and I'll offer you a high-paying job, for the sake of the past. I remember that you seemed to have said before that you wanted to jump to my side and recognize me as the big brother. You probably haven't forgotten it. Now I promise. Roland opened his mouth, and the curvature of the corners of his mouth gradually expanded. Hearing the unbearable past that Roland mentioned, an angry look appeared on Rayleigh's old face, and his body trembled with anger. Shut up, you bastard. Don't mention that to me. Chapter 211. The families gathered after 36 years. Shut up. Stop talking. Don't mention that to me. I forgot. I forgot all about it. You bastard, forget about it for me. Quote. Rayleigh, the underworld king who incarnates the Zon people, is like a commoner at this moment, irritably scolding the street. This scene directly watched the audience. Spacious prison cell. The desperate slaves scattered in every corner were also startled by Rayleigh's sudden outburst. All of them widened their eyes in amazement, full of puzzlement and doubts. Among them, a few people, such as the giant prisoner, were the most shocked. Of course they heard something. Rayleigh. The man outside the door used to call the old man Rayleigh. Is Rayleigh that Rayleigh? The legendary great pirate, the right hand of One Piece, king of pirates Roger Rayleigh, the king of the underworld. After realizing this most critical information point, few 039 slaves and 039 strong men such as the giant prisoner all opened their mouths in shock. The whole body was quickly filled with shock. So much so that not even a word could be uttered. The old man who was in the same room as them turned out to be a living legend. Pluto Rayleigh has been reduced to the same miserable level as them. This kind of thing, no one will believe it if it spreads out. If you don't see it with your own eyes. If it weren't for the legend in front of him, he was wearing the same explosive collar as them around his neck. How can they believe it? How dare you believe it? Etc. The eyes of the giant prisoner and others passed the white-haired old man Rayleigh and landed on Roland, who was outside the door. From the conversation between Roland and Rayleigh just now, they also learned an important piece of information. Since this old man is the legendary Hades Rayleigh. Met the legend. Even an existence like Rayleigh, the underworld king of Ling, has a big change in expression. What about the man who is irritable and scolding the street regardless of the style of the strong? Who is he? Obviously looks so young. Is it also a legend? The giant prisoner and the others all had this absurd idea in their hearts. Grandpa Lay, what's the matter tilde? Kami hanging on Roland's back tilted her head in shock and confusion. Agaga. Alice, the girl wearing a peaked cap, murmured unconsciously. Front of Rayleigh, this gesture completely subverted his perfect image in the heart of the girl Alice. Girl Alice never knew. Own teacher. No matter what happens, Mr. Rayleigh is calm and calm. There is still such a violent side. And it was Luo Lin next to him who caused Rayleigh to be so irritable and lose his former peace and calm. It turns out that Mr. Roland really knew Mr. Rayleigh. The previous relationship between Mr. Roland and Mr. Rayleigh was definitely unusual. What thrilling incident happened between the two of them in the past? I really want to know. In Alice's heart. Looking at Roland with expectation and hope. Roland chose to ignore the girl Alice's gossip. Looking at the energetic and irritable Rayleigh in front of him, Roland couldn't help but understand issue. Thoughts fly. Go back to those days more than 40 years ago. That used to be their time. The Roger Pirates led by One Piece, king of pirates Gold Roger. With the Marine Supernova Quintet at that time, consisting of Roland, Garp, Sengoku, Zephyr, and Suru. Because of each other's marine and pirate positions, they are in an antagonistic relationship. Especially Roland and Garp. More than once, it has been in fire with the Roger Pirates 039. At the same time, it was precisely because of the encounters and battles that happened again and again. There have also been many subtle changes in the relationship between the two parties. Especially after facing a common enemy and advancing and retreating with life and death. Do not know each other. This sentence of the ancients is naturally not fabricated out of thin air. There must be a reason. In the pirate world without Rollins, Garp and Roger are friends who have been fighting for decades. That's why. Before Roger died calmly, he would trust his wife and children to Garp with confidence. And with the emergence of Rollins, the direction of the plot, the overlapping of people's destiny is also gradually shifting. What remains the same is the sympathetic friendship that came out. Of course, there are some other interesting episodes. For example, once during the battle, the blood spattered from Roland's wound accidentally fell into Roger's mouth. Roger, who was still beating to death, was affected by the blood and instantly transformed into Luo Lin's little fanboy. Ling's members of the Roger regiment who were present at the time, as well as Marine, Garp and others were all shocked. And this experience has become the most unbearable memory in Roger's life. From time to time, it will be taken out by people, as a joke, to talk about it. Except for the well-known embarrassment of Roger. More than 40 years ago, there were several people in the Roger Pirates who had a similar experience. It just didn't happen in plain sight. The parties do not speak. Others won't know. Vice Captain Pluto Rayleigh. That was 42 years ago. One day, Llewellyn and Garp, who were chasing Roger's group as usual, followed the panicked Roger group to an island. Unexpectedly, both of them fell into the trap set by the Sea Overlord rocks. That time, it was the most dangerous battle the Roger Pirates had faced since its inception. It's almost a rollover. Completely annihilated. Each member was forcibly scattered all over the island. Even the powerful deputy captain, Rayleigh, could not face the joint attack of the Rocks Group monster army captains at the same time without support. Suffered heavy losses. Life is on the line. Fortunately, I met Roland who happened to pass by. This saved a life. And it is precisely because of the influence of blood pressure, Nuo's Control Reaction 039. Stronger than Rayleigh is also a fan of Roland, just like the previous Roger. Even threatened to leave the Roger Pirates and follow Llewellyn's men to work with Marine. In this scene, Lay's Zephyr, who was also present at the time, was called an outer coke and inner tenderness. Luckily for Rayleigh, Zephyr's character is sullen and won't be preached everywhere. If it were Garp's big mouth, the whole world who would yell the next day would know. Rayleigh kept his mouth shut about it. Roland didn't say it, Zephyr didn't say it. Of course no one knows. Over time. Even Rayleigh himself almost forgot about it. Until today. 36 years later. Once again, he saw the man he once shunned. Once again awakened those dusty memories in his mind. What a change this is. Lying, trough. Chapter 212 Hades Rayleigh wants to beat people open black lens bracket 5/5 for subscription custom close black lens bracket. Hoo. Breathing non-stop, Rayleigh, the king of the underworld who had been chattering for a long time, opened his mouth wide and let out a heavy breathing sound. And shock in his heart also calmed down a little with these venting words. It's just that those old eyes were still locked on Llewellyn without blinking. Never moved away an inch. True. Rollins in the past has caused a ton of psychological shadows on him. And annoyance unconsciously. But 42 years ago, on that island, it was also true that Rollins saved his life. Not even just him. And their entire Roger Pirates. All have received the great grace of this sea soldier. In the more than 10 years of love and kill. Even the opposing sides with different stances will inevitably have some other emotions. Both enemy and friend. Swords face each other on the frontal battlefield. After the fight, you can also sit down and have a drink together in peace. Chat. Talk about ideals in life. It's not Rayleigh's fantasy. It's something that actually happened decades ago. Sea soldier, in front of me is completely different from the normal Marine. His philosophy. His thoughts. His behavior is on point. And when he was drunk, he blurted out. Once shocked the entire Roger Pirates. Even without the blood suppression effect. He is still One Piece King of Pirates Roger, the man whom Rayleigh the Pluto admired from the bottom of their hearts. So 36 years ago, not long after the Battle of the Isle of God, when I suddenly heard from Garp that Roland disappeared. Neither Roger nor Rayleigh, nor the entire Roger Pirates can accept it. Pirate ship Al Roger Kesson, which was full of laughter, was silent for 3 days. Later, they even erected a tomb on the island where they met Roland for the first time. Humans have always been like this since time immemorial. Annoying when he hangs around all day. When the other party suddenly disappears one day, there will be infinite misses. At that time, 36 years later, when I saw it again, I would subconsciously dislike it. However, after the dislike, the only thing left is probably nostalgia. That were originally full of indignation also became softened, and gradually brought some other emotional colors. It was either joy or excitement for the old man with the terrifying title of Pluto, and the corners of his eyes were unconsciously rosy at this moment. Rayleigh, the king of the underworld, has not cried many times in his life. Countless. The day the Roger Pirates disbanded more than 20 years ago, the unconscious tears after getting drunk with the friends who were about to part were counted as one time. On the day of Roger's execution, he watched helplessly from below, tears falling unconsciously for the second time. And this time, it's the third time. For once, like-minded friends. Welcome back, dear friend. Pluto Rayleigh spoke silently in his heart. You can only think about it in your heart. The words of Roland's resurrection were just said before. At this moment, he was too embarrassed to say such provocative words. Sometimes like this, sometimes like that. It's embarrassing what others will think. Just maybe because it's been too long. Rayleigh forgot the one ability that Roland had in front of him. Even if he just thought about it in his mind. Rollins can still hear. My dear friend hears from you. It's a bit nauseous, Rayleigh, and what kind of tisk are you now? The dignified king of Hades, Rayleigh, who is in his 70s, still crying like a little girl, it's really unbearable. Look straight. Roland grinned isho, a venomous tongue of disgust. You. Rayleigh's old face froze, and he finally recalled the fear of being dominated by Roland's mind-reading skills. The nostalgia and emotion that was born in my heart disappeared with Luo Lin's poisonous tongue. A pair of eyebrows stood up. As expected, you're still the same bastard as before, talking nonsense with your eyes open all day long. Rayleigh grunted. Who's talking nonsense? Everyone saw your blushing eyes earlier, right, little girl Alice? Roland looked at the girl in the peaked cap beside him. Ah. The girl Alice, who was still in a state of shock, nodded subconsciously. And me, I saw it too. Mermaid Kami raised her hand weakly. Crunch. His own fig leaf was ruthlessly exposed by his disciple and the little mermaid girl. Rayleigh seemed a little embarrassed. Teeth creaked. Teacher. The girl Alice who had reacted hurriedly stepped forward and grabbed one of Rayleigh's arms. Teacher, Mr. Luo Lin is a very good man, don't show such a stern expression. The girl Alice said coquettishly. Rayleigh turned to look at the cheap disciple he had taught for a while. Obviously, this girl admired herself the most before. But now he is helping an outsider. What's the matter? Alice, how long have you known this guy? Asked Rayleigh. Agaga, in less than a week. The girl Alice replied. Less than a week. Hear this answer. Rayleigh blew his beard more and more and stared. In less than a week, I kidnapped the cheap disciple I once raised as a daughter. This feeling is like the Chinese cabbage that I have worked hard to raise has been arched, and it is not a taste. So Rayleigh looked at Roland's eyes more and more badly. Aren't you just relying on immortality to not die? You're obviously not a few years younger than me. Being handsome can be eaten. Me too, I was not bad when I was young. I'm sorry, being handsome can really do whatever you want. Roland grinned isho, showing 2 rows of white teeth and a bright smile. However, it was Rayleigh who saw that he clenched his fists and wanted to hit someone. Okay. Critical moment. Seeing some bad girls, Alice quickly stopped Rayleigh. Teacher, you haven't told me yet, why are you here? Who has the ability to get you here? Did you sneak in to save Kami? Asked the girl Alice. Oh really? Mermaid Kami was instantly moved. The angry expression on Rayleigh's face froze. Just now because of seeing Luo Lin, he forgot his current status as a prepared slave. This time it's good. It's not just Shaki who sees that. He was also seen by his own disciples. However, looking at the moved face of the cute little mermaid girl on the side, Rayleigh smiled. I am preparing to be cheeky and take advantage of the situation. But before he spoke, Roland on the side suddenly smiled. Rayleigh groaned subconsciously, feeling something wrong. Wait. Rayleigh stopped drinking. That's not it. Little girl Alice, this guy clearly sold himself here to make money to play in the casino. Roland mercilessly exposed. Rayleigh, crunch. Chapter 213 Roland vs. Rayleigh. Hades lost. Open black lens bracket 1/7 for subscription close black lens bracket. Rayleigh, why are you looking at me like that, am I right? Seeing Rayleigh's annoyed look, Roland grinned suddenly. Crunch. Teeth rubbed and the sound of biting became clearer. You bastard, really, you haven't changed at all from before. You're still as badass as ever. You don't save any face at all. Rayleigh's fists clenched gradually. But, when I think of the deep memories of the one-on-one fight with Luo Lin. Rayleigh's clenched fist is loosened again. For your rare resurrection, Sake. I'll give you a face this time. I bear it, Rayleigh thought silently. Look at Rayleigh's changing face. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, has also understood it in her heart. Percent of the truth is, as Roland said, this teacher of mine is still the same as always. Maverick. But think carefully. Past, there seemed to be Rayleigh's excuse to help her keep her pocket money, but it happened that she accidentally lost it all. So, selling myself for money today doesn't seem to be so strange. Thank you so much. Just as Alice in the peaked cap was thinking about this, something was missing, people suddenly exclaimed in the cell. Immediately afterwards, several men and women of all races knelt down towards Luo Lin and thanked him continuously. Agaga, teacher, Mr. Roland has a solution for the explosive collar on your neck. The girl Alice opened her mouth. Call. Rayleigh stared at his cheap disciple with wide eyes. This girl really turned her back on her completely. What kind of ecstasy soup did that bastard give this girl? Alice, who do you think the old man is? It's just a collar, you don't need anyone else's help, the old man can do it himself. Rayleigh pissed off. The fingers wrapped around the powerful senior armament hockey jutted out. Next moment, a dazzling explosion of light bloomed in the cell. A bang sounded. A burst of flames exploded in midair. That's the exploding collar that Rayleigh threw out. Agaga, as expected of Mr. Rayleigh, he is really amazing. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, sighed. Grandpa Lay is amazing. Mermaid Kani agrees. A living legend, Pluto deserves to be Pluto. Few people who knew the name of the Pluto Rayleigh, including the giant prisoner, were also shocked. Hear the compliments from the crowd. Rayleigh's face finally improved a little. No longer as black as the bottom of a pot as before. But as expected, Mr. Roland's handling is a little more clever. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, supplemented her opening by comparing the means of Roland and Rayleigh. Gah! The smile that had just risen on Rayleigh's face froze for a moment. Yes, although Grandpa Lay is also very powerful, Mr. Roland seems to be even more powerful. Mermaid Kani rode. Giant prisoner and others, as well as everyone in the cell, were stunned for a moment. Then Chi-Chi nodded in agreement. It is true that the speed of light shown by Rayleigh destroys the collar, and the method of throwing it out is really powerful and amazing. But Roland on the other side just flicked his finger, and the collar fell off. Even the explosive device inside was destroyed. Compare the two. Explosive and non-explosive. The difference is clear at a glance. Even Rayleigh himself had to admit it. Acknowledgement is acknowledgement. As an old rival in the past, it is impossible to be convinced. Rayleigh, you seem a little unconvinced by your appearance, why don't you come and be? Roland smiled. Compare, who's afraid of who? Rayleigh agreed without hesitation. What about the loser who needs to unconditionally agree to a request from the other party? Roland asked. Since it is a gamble, it naturally needs some lottery to be more interesting. Come on, where is so much nonsense? Rayleigh said impatiently. Then he took 2 steps forward, facing everyone in the cell. I believe that the old man will come here, shouted Rayleigh. Quote. No one answered. Even when Rayleigh's voice fell. A group of reserve slaves wearing explosive collars all walked in the direction of Roland. Not that I don't believe Rayleigh. Just compared to Rayleigh's violent removal technique. Roland's side seems to be much safer. Looking at this scene, the black lines on Rayleigh's forehead couldn't help but have a few more. Mr. Rayleigh, here I come. And me. I believe in Mr. Rayleigh too. At this moment, the giant and the other 2 stood up with gritted teeth. Good. Seeing this, Rayleigh's expression finally softened a little. There are 3-3s on my side, and 3-3s on your side. Rayleigh looked at Roland and raised his chin defiantly. Roland nodded. Then, get ready, start. Alice, the girl in the peaked cap who was the referee, slammed her hands down. Rayleigh, who was ready for a long time, flipped his hands and turned into afterimages. Before and after is just a breathless effort. The explosive collars on the necks of the 3 giants flew in the air together. Bang bang bang, 3 loud noises. 3 fireworks exploded in midair. Thank you, Mr. Rayleigh. The 3 giants saluted together. Rayleigh responded calmly, turning his head proudly to look at Roland on the other side. In his vision, his previous speed had definitely reached its limit. Even Roland could only be tied with him at best. It can't be any faster. However, the reality taught him a lesson. Although Mr. Rayleigh is also fast, Mr. Roland is still a little bit faster, and Alice, the girl in the peaked cap, wrinkled her nose, and made a judgment. At the same time, his eyes swept across the room, a pretty face full of shock and disbelief. Because, just in that brief moment, what Roland lifted was not just the explosive collars of the trio of 3, but all the explosive collars around the necks of everyone in this standby cell were all shattered at the same time. What kind of powerful force is this? How possible? Rayleigh, who was also aware of this, had an old face completely filled with shock. No matter how fast a person is, he has to have a limit in the end. In such a short period of time just now, it is absolutely impossible for even a space-type fruit person to do it. More importantly, although Rayleigh didn't look at it before, his observation hockey was not a decoration. Rayleigh is sure. Roland had not moved at all before. So what's going on? Is it his new ability again? How did you do it? Rayleigh's eyes widened, looking at Roland in disbelief. If you want to know, why didn't you try it yourself? Roland smiled. Bastard, just try it, I'm really afraid you won't succeed. Rayleigh annoyed and responded. Boom. Chapter 214. One name shocked the audience. Open black lens bracket 2/7 for subscription. Close black lens bracket. Mangrove Population Auction Room Number 1, Sabayati Islands. Today is destined to shake the whole world. Auction backstage. The 2 legends of the last era, the top duel between Roland and Rayleigh is about to start. Auction front desk. The huge auction venue is still in a state of commotion. Loud voices. By the absurd incident of, the head of one's own cadres auctioned on one's own floor, continues. Apart from shaking. A few good people who watch the fun and are not afraid of big things. The real man raised the number plate in his hand and began to compete for bids. Anyway, the booing, the bidding doesn't want money, isn't it? Even if I actually took it in the end. Could it be that the auctioneer Disco still had orders to ask them for money, and he who did such a betrayal would definitely be torn to pieces by Doflamingo's anger? In their eyes, Daring auctioneer Disco on the stage is already dead. How can the dead ask for money from them? As for the cadre of Don Quixote, Diamante's corpse, you can take it to Marine for a bounty. Or give it back to Doflamingo, and add some sensational performances. Maybe he can take over the auctioneer Disco and take control of this hugely profitable population auction house. 200 million inches. Thinking so, the Mangrove Island master of No directly shouted the sky-high price of 200 million. Then twice as much as Diamante's 99 million bellies. Ha ha ha, everyone, I think you don't want to rob me. The bald island owner Trudeau, who controls the number 3 mangrove area, grinned Isho, revealing a cold smile. See you. Originally, those who still wanted to join in the fun casually, and the people who were stirring shit suddenly died. This auction farce. It's really almost over here. 200 million, transaction. On the auction table. Completely shattered, and the auctioneer Disco made the final decision. Finalize the deal. Trudeau of Mangrove number 3, I know you, since I took Diamante's head, get the money ready first. Auctioneer Disco looked at Trudeau and said coldly. Ha ha ha. Trudeau, the owner of Mangrove Island number 3, suddenly burst out laughing. Hey, Disco, you're already a dead man, what else do you need for the 200 million bergs, but if the money for the coffin isn't enough, I'll give you one for free. As I said before, Diamante's head auction was commissioned by someone else. I advise you to prepare 200 million first, otherwise you have to prepare your own queen, and maybe you will die in front of me. What? The auctioneer Disco yelled wildly. The third island owner Trudeau's face froze. Involuntarily, a chill appeared in my heart. Yes, from just now on, he seems to have been neglecting one thing. With the strength of Disco, it is absolutely impossible to kill the big pirate with a reward of 100 million. He will not do such crazy things for no reason. Behind him, there seems to be a terrifying monster that can kill Diamante. No, or even another huge organization. An organization that is not afraid of the Don Quixote family, or even hostile to it. If so he who took the initiative to blend into the game between the two great forces. The more Mangrove Island Lord Trudeau thought about it, the more frightened he became. A heart is even more cool. The whole person is no longer publicized before. Damn, it was put together. Trudeau, the owner of Mangrove Island number 3, was full of indignation. After taking over this mess, what should he do to spend money to eliminate the disaster? No. That's a full 100 million. No, it's 200 million berries. Just when the third Mangrove Island owner was secretly angry because of his stupid behavior. The interest of the other guests at the auction room was gradually waning. Hey, Disco bastard, get that merman out of here before you die. That's right, auction bastard, if you die, the auction of that young fish will continue as usual. Take it as the curtain call of your auction career. Don't worry, we will definitely make your last auction reach the highest level. ... The people at the venue shouted and urged. The mortals over there, stop dawdling, and quickly bring this sage's mermaid over. VIP table, Tenryubito Charles Ross, who had been waiting impatiently for a long time, also reprimanded loudly. Hee hee. Facing everyone's urging and scolding, auctioneer Disco smiled lowly. Ha ha ha. Then, the deep laughter turned into a hysterical laughter. Shut me all up. The high-pitched voice of the auctioneer's Disco echoed throughout the venue through the amplification of the microphone. The harsh electric sound made many people cover their ears unconsciously. You bastards are right, I am indeed going to die. Even if I don't die today, Doflamingo will never let me go in the future. Since I am already dying, I will auction a hammer. You want mermaids, go and catch them yourself. Auctioneer Disco sneered. Mortal, I don't care whether you die or not, quickly send this sage's mermaid up, this is your last chance. Tenryubito Charles Ross screamed. Shut up, you stupid pig Tianlong bastard, I've had enough of you. Stupid pig-like nobles, how can an ugly and stupid pig like you be able to enjoy everything in the world? Auctioneer Disco glared at Tenryubito Charles Ross. My heart. I didn't dare to say it before, and I didn't even dare to think about it, all of them blurted out at this time. So, the whole place was silent. Crazy, this person is completely crazy. All of them have this idea in their hearts at the same time. On the VIP seat. Tenryubito Charles Ross, who had never been scolded, had endless astonishment on his ugly and stupid face. Immediately afterwards, the astonishment and shock all turned into hideous and cruel. Guards, hurry up and catch that bastard, this sage wants him to survive, not to die. Tenryubito Charles Ross was shaking with anger. Yes. Charge of guarding Tenryubito shouted in unison. Rumble, just before the Tenryubito's guards moved, there was a sudden rumbling sound from the entire auction venue. Next second. In the screams and exclamations of the people, the walls on the auction table collapsed. Turn it into a neat cube. The wall to the auction table. All of a sudden it caught everyone's attention. A name uttered in his mouth shocked the audience instantly. Really, is this your full strength? It's still a long way off. Chapter 215 hit Tenryubito with one punch. Open black lens bracket 3/7. Please customize close black lens bracket. Boom rumble, the entire auction venue shook violently without warning. The walls of the auction stand collapsed with a roar, turning into neat cubes one after another. A figure fluttered lightly from the other side of the wall and landed on the auction table. This sudden change caused chaos in the entire auction venue. Rollingo. It's Brother Rolling, that's right. The instructor is back. Looking at the figure breaking through the wall, Vivi, Nami, and Koala in the back row of the venue all let out a coquettish cry of surprise. Robin's mouth twitched involuntarily. Completely relieved, and there are no more worries in my heart. As long as that person is there. Even if the sky falls, Mr. Roland, is that Mr. Roland? The gentleman is here, so is Kami all right? Octopus Hachi and Starfish Papagu asked weakly, crying and chirping. It's all right. Shaki affirmed. It's just the two of you, the noise must have been too loud. Shaki looked past Roland, who was on the stage with his back to the crowd, to the shadow behind the wall. As if he could see the white-haired old man standing behind him. Excitement of Robin and other little girls. At this moment, everyone else in the auction venue was in a state of panic. Screams all over the place. The funniest part is finally here. Magician Hawkins' expression is full of madness and shock. Captain Hawkins, that person. The aura on that person seems to be very bad, why don't we go first? Without this necessity, we will not die here today, this is the guidance from fate. The magician Hawkins said for sure. Captain, what's going on there? Who is that person? It's a bad feeling. It's too scary. Hey. Polar Bear Babo pointed at Luolin on the auction table and shouted in surprise. That's it. Did you kill Diamante? The monsters in this sea are really endless. There is one less kid, and now there is another monster among monsters. The death surgeon, Trafalgar Law's expression was full of shock. Feel the breath that naturally emanates from Roland's body. His body trembled instinctively. That's the of the powerhouse. Even he feels this way. What level of monster is that? The pirate powerhouses in the venue are all watching the auction table with vigilance and shock. The time of the Rollins. Next moment. Even more shocking, and even shocking things happened. Hey, Rayleigh, I haven't seen you for 36 years. Are you old enough to have this power? It's not enough to tickle me. Ah. Auction stage, Luolin turned his back to all beings, and the noisy venue fell into a momentary silence as the sound fell. Rayleigh in Rayleigh Rolling's mouth is. Vivi's beautiful eyes gradually widened, as if realizing something. Rayleigh. This name. Is it the legendary Hades Rayleigh? Nami screamed in shock. Can't go wrong. That's that person. Rayleigh, the king of the underworld. Koala and Robin looked at each other. They all saw the answer in each other's eyes. Man, the old man who sent Shaggy's emotions upside down. That Shaggy would buy even at the cost of 2 million bellies. That, the old man who made them feel a little familiar. His true identity is the right hand of the legendary One Piece, king of pirates, Rayleigh, the king of the underworld. Under the shocked eyes of the little girls, there were footsteps on the other side of the wall. The old man who had appeared on the stage as an auction commodity before walked step by step and appeared in the sight of everyone in the venue. President, the big event. The big event is coming again. The members of the World Economic News newspaper once again contacted the president of the World Economic News by telephone, Morgans. What did you say? What happened to this auction? On the other side of the phone worm, Morgans, who was busy reporting the Diamante incident, shouted. Legend. The legendary great pirate. The right hand of One Piece, king of pirates. Hades. Hades Serba's Rayleigh appeared. Nah. Nee. ... Hey, true or false, Rayleigh? Pluto Rayleigh, there's really a big man here now. Trafalgar Law abruptly stood up. The shocked expression on his face deepened with Rayleigh's appearance. Captain, that person. That old man is that. Pluto Rayleigh, is this true? True. The white bear Babo poses as a white crane with bright wings. It turned out to be the Pluto Rayleigh. Is that old man really the co-captain of One Piece, king of pirates? Unbelievable. Why would such a character appear here? The pirates in the audience were all subconsciously shocked and screamed. Compared to the little-known Luo Lin who still has his back to them. At this moment, people's eyes are naturally attracted to Hades, who has left countless legends behind. Under the spotlight, Rayleigh stands on the auction table. Under the dumbfounded and frightened gaze of auctioneer Disco, he slowly clenched his fists. The powerful momentum came out, making the Disco on the side feel a terrifying oppressive force that seemed to be suffocated. Bastard, the battle has just begun. Take it. Under the shocked gaze of people, the legendary pirate Pluto Rayleigh suddenly shot out. Covered with the extremely powerful armament Hockey's fist, it fell mercilessly towards Roland's body. Yeah. See this scene. Vivi, Nami and other little girls in the back row all exclaimed subconsciously. Under the shocked gaze of everyone in the audience, Luo Lin on the auction table did not dodge or evade. It seemed that he was going to use his body to take the full punch of Hades. Just when everyone thought so. Auction table, the space around Luo Lin suddenly distorted a little. Who watched this duel only felt a flower before their eyes. Next moment, Roland, who should have been in their sight, has disappeared. It was replaced by a disgusting ugly man wearing a bubble mask and a full-body protective suit with a stupid look on his face. Tenryubito Charles Ross. Space, displacement. This moment. Look at the terrifying fist that keeps expanding in his sight. The dazed and overwhelmed expression on Tenryubito's face was instantly replaced by extreme fear. The breath of death enveloped him completely. Fear made him instinctively utter the most terrifying scream in his life. Next moment. Fist 2. So. The screaming stopped abruptly. Bang, followed by a muffled sound. Under the horrified gazes of everyone in the venue, blood splattered with stumps. Tenryubito Charles Ross exploded, torn apart. Chapter 216. The audience was shocked. Conqueror conflict. Open black lens bracket 4/7 for subscription. Close black lens bracket. Bang, fist touches flesh. Makes a dull crashing sound. Under the shocked and even horrified eyes of people, Rayleigh, the king of Pluto, suddenly disappeared. Appeared instead was Tenryubito Charles Ross, who was stunned and terrified. There is no going back. Unavoidable. Everything happens in an instant. Even if it is as strong as Rayleigh, it will be too late when he reacts. His full-armed punch, which was meant to be used to beat Roland, landed on Tenryubito Charles Ross, who was like a fat pig. Kyla, Tenryubito Charo's special protective suit ripped apart under the violent fist wind. Pucci, followed by tearing his body. Tenryubito's shrill screams just came to an abrupt end. Physical strength is not as good as even the most powerful 5 scumbags. Faced with the full blow of the legendary pirate, what the outcome will be has now been revealed. Blood splattered on the auction table. Tenryubito Charles Ross's 2 arms flew out of the body, piercing the ceiling of the venue. His 2 legs were also torn at the same time, poking straight into the auction table. The last thing separated from the torso is his ugly head, which is still full of fear and tears. There is no room for struggle. Under the full blow of Rayleigh, Tenryubito Charles Ross was torn apart. The dead can't die again. The entire auction hall fell into absolute silence because of this sudden event. Death of World Noble Tenryubito. The expressions on people's faces were all dull at this moment. The world seems to have been pressed the pause button at this moment. Shaki was stunned. Robin, Koala, Vivi, Nami and other little girls were stunned. Trafalgar Law, Beppo the White Bear, Hawkins the Magician and others were motionless. The government guards responsible for protecting Tenryubito were collectively stupid. Even Rayleigh, who punched Tenryubito Charles Ross on the auction stage, was stunned at the moment. The only thing in the audience could remain calm. With the same expression on his face as always, only Luo Lin was alone. On the VIP seat. Standing in the middle of a group of government guards, Luo Lin walked calmly. Under people's stupid gazes, they walked back to the auction stage step by step. What's the matter, Rayleigh? It's just a Tenryubito. If you kill it, you will kill it. It's no big deal. Roland said lightly. His words were like a fuse for dynamite. The voice fell. The world turns again. Result, the entire auction venue fell into a sea of boiling and noise. I did it. I really did it. That Tenryubito is still dead. Shaki took a deep breath. He suppressed his inner shock. Knew of Roland's arrival, she had more than once imagined how Tenryubito Charles Rose would die. However, Rao is Shaki, and he never expected that it would end up like this. It wasn't Roland's hands. Instead, he was punched out by Rayleigh. World Noble Tenryubito is dead. Marine Admiral is coming. Vivi's eyes widened, her face full of shock. Don't be afraid, little Vivi, Marine Admiral is her own. Robin patted Vivi's beautiful back and comforted. Ah, it seems like oh. Vivi reacted, and the hidden worry on his face disappeared in an instant. That nasty Tenryubito's dead, well dead. You've been trying to snatch Kami from us. Nami waved her little pink fist happily. Tenryubito, dead. Koala's eyes turned red instantly. Although it was not Luo Lin who did it himself. But in Koala's eyes, it was no different from Roland's own shot. Thank you, Tutor, and Mr. Rayleigh. Koala murmured choked up. Thank you, Teacher, and Mr. Roland. The same choked and weeping as Koala. There is also Alice, the girl in the peaked cap who witnessed this scene from behind the wall. President. Auction corner area. A member of the World Economic News called the hot air balloon headquarters for the 3rd time today. After a while, the phone worm connected. Tell me, in addition to Rayleigh, the Pluto, there must be another legend, right? Morgans said excitedly. No. The members screamed in disbelief. Cut. Morgans on the other end of the phone slammed in disappointment. I thought there would be 3 big news today. Then you, tell me, what happened this time? Morgans asked. President Morgans, God, Tenryubito is dead. The members' voices gradually changed. Nani, you are not mistaken. World Noble Tenryubito is dead. Morgans shouted one after another. Yes, there can be no mistake. Everyone in the venue witnessed it with their own eyes, that Rayleigh the Pluto punched Tenryubito to pieces. The staff members reported in shock. It's great, it's really big news. The news King Morgans of the hot air balloon headquarters was excited to do backflips in a row. If not too far away. At this moment, he can't wait to leave and fly to the scene immediately, and take the material. Today is really the craziest day, the big event can't be stopped. Trafalgar Law shouted with excitement. My divination was right, that Tenryubito was covered in dead words, and it came true. I just didn't expect it to unfold like this. Interesting. Magician Hawkins was equally excited. Captain, is this the time to say this? Tenryubito is dead, Admiral. Marine Headquarters Admiral is coming soon. Excitement and excitement for my own captain. The crew on both sides shouted in unison. They are not the only ones who have such worries and fears. At this moment, all the pirates and wealthy businessmen in the entire venue shouted in unison. Fleeing to the outside of the auction. Marine Admiral is coming soon. This is about to become the most terrifying battlefield. This is no longer a place where ordinary people can continue to stay. Other pirates, rich businessmen can escape. There were a group of people who couldn't go. They are the guards who guard Tenryubito Charo's. As Tenryubito Charo's personal bodyguard. They even watched helplessly as their master was beaten up. What a dereliction of duty. No accident, they will be executed by the government and Tenryubito to death. Damn, how even dare to kill St. Charles. You guys, the evil party is over. No one can save you. When Marine Admiral arrives, you are destined to die miserably like us. It's all because of you that we have to die together. Before we die, you die first. Because of the death of Tenryubito Charles Ross, all the guards went into madness. In their hands, they slaughtered Roland and Rayleigh on the auction table from all directions. 4. The hysterical counterattack of the guards. Neither Roland nor Rayleigh were aware of it. Asshole. Rayleigh stared at Roland in front of him, gnashing his teeth. What's up, Rayleigh? Roland asked with a smile. You actually used my hand to kill Tenryubito, didn't you kill a lot before? Why did you borrow my hand to support you this time? My leisurely retirement life is about to end. Rayleigh snorted angrily. The boom, Conqueror Hockey exploded from Rayleigh's body and swept towards Roland in front of him. Tenryubito guards who attacked Roland. Tenryubito, these pigs, I can kill anytime I want, but I think you haven't killed Tenryubito, Rayleigh, so I created a chance for you to have a good time. Roland grinned. Boom, is more terrifying than Rayleigh, and the huge Conqueror Hockey emerges like a tide. The group of Tenryubito guards who were going to kill Rayleigh were all knocked into the air. Ha ha ha, Rayleigh, how does it feel to kill Tenryubito? Roland asked with a smile. Then there is no need to say, one word, cool. Rayleigh's loud voice accompanied the Conqueror, which exploded here. Rumble, the most powerful Conqueror Hockey conflict in the world takes place here and now. Result, the entire population auction field overturned at this moment. Chapter 217 Big Event. Marine Headquarters shakes. Open black lens bracket order 5/7 close black lens bracket. To die, Captain, let's go. Tenryubito is dead, and Marine Admiral is coming soon. The pet of the heart pirates, the bounty is as high as 500. Barry's big pirate, the white bear Babo is afraid like ants on a hot pot. That's right, Captain, it won't be too late until Marine Admiral comes over. The little pirate wearing a penguin hat echoed the road, with panic written all over his face. Captain Hawkins, this place is about to turn into a battlefield for monsters. Let's go quickly. If we get involved in the battle of monsters, it will be really bad. The pirates of the Hawkins pirates also panicked and urged their captains. However, for the urging of his younger brothers. Whether it is a death surgeon or a magician, it is almost unheard of. At this moment, their eyes were still locked on the two people on the auction table. One side is Pluto Rayleigh, the other side. Trafalgar Law's eyes fell on Roland. The pupils vibrated involuntarily. Of the young monster who confronted the legend. But, that, a mighty power that made him instinctively fear. That, monster-like gesture, I have a hunch that something big is going to happen in this sea. Trafalgar Law spoke in unison with Hawkins. Just as their voices fell, Rayleigh on the auction table took a sharp step forward. Boom, next second. A powerful aura surged like a tidal wave in an instant. Patta, patta, under the pressure of that invisible momentum. Hawkins' pirates, who were standing round and round, all fell down to their positions by coincidence, unable to move. There was utter horror on their faces. Ship, Captain, what is this? What is going on? Beppo the polar bear is afraid. This is... Trafalgar Law took a deep breath. Hockey in Conqueror. It turned out to be hockey from Conqueror. It can't be wrong. It's real. The living legend has really appeared. ... Venue, the pirate captains who were as bold as Trafalgar Law and the others were shouting in an uproar at this moment. Conqueror hockey sweeps. Just a momentary effort. On the ground, a group of people fell in unison. Tenryubito's guards who were killing Roland on the left side of the venue, and those ordinary people who didn't have time to escape from the venue, how could they bear hockey, who lived in Hades, fell one after another. Just as the pirates on the right who had not been hit by the Conqueror screamed in shock. Luo Lin on the auction table also took a step forward. One step down. The storm is back. Boom, when Roland's step fell. The entire population auction site was shaken. Next second. The auction venue on the side of the auction room with a terrifying aura than Rayleigh's Conqueror. Cough cough. Puff. Those Tenryubito guards who approached behind Rayleigh, held high swords, and shot with long spears, all flew backwards under the impact of this hockey that seemed to materialize. There were cracks in the weapons in their hands. The armor on their bodies made a crackling sound, as if they were about to disintegrate. Blood spurted out of their mouths uncontrollably, staining the ground red. This is... At this moment, Trafalgar Law and Magician Hawkins finally could no longer sit calmly. Suddenly he stood up. Looking at Luo Lin on the auction stage, his eyes were full of shock and disbelief. What the hell is going on? What the hell is hockey? The Magician Hawkins yelled. Hey, is that kind of thing also Conqueror's hockey? Why can it be so powerful? It's not just mental coercion. Trafalgar Law screamed in shock. Compared with that monster's Conqueror hockey, that Doflamingo's Conqueror is like a child. The dimension is completely different. Ship, Captain. The polar bear Babo gasped for breath, with a look of pain on his face. Next second. Impact of Roland's Conqueror, the white bear Babo, who persisted for a moment, rolled his eyes and passed out completely. The other crew members of the Heart Pirates, the Hawkins Pirates, and even everyone in the entire venue fell into a coma at this moment. Two supernova captains, Trafalgar Law and the Magician Hawkins, who have a reward of over 100 million. In addition, there are naturally Shaki, Robin, Koala and others who are sheltered by Roland in the back row. Roland. Rayleigh. On the auction table. Roland and Rayleigh each took another step. Rumbling, the earth shakes. Not just a population auction. The entire number 1 mangrove area was shaking at this moment. To Conqueror hockey, finally, conflict. Originally invisible mental momentum oppression. It was like a qualitative change had taken place at this moment. Colored by invisibility. The caca in the void is like a burst of purple-black lightning. Between Rollins and Rayleigh on the auction block, the center of the conflict between the two conquerors, a dark spot appeared. The point gradually expands. Turn into a circle. Like a deep black hole, slowly rotating. Ultimately, the most terrifying hockey storm of Boom Rumble is here. Overturned the entire population auction. At this moment, Mangrove Island number 66 in the Sabayati Islands. Marine stationed at the base. A big mess. What did you say? Hey, is what you said true? Tenryubito. Is Tenryubito really dead? That's the nobles of the world, who would dare to shoot. The generals of Marine Base were contacted by Mangrove No. 1, and they were in chaos. It's Rayleigh, Pluto Rayleigh. The legendary great pirate Pluto Rayleigh has appeared again. The sailor on the other side of the phone worm screamed and reported in horror. What did you say? Emotions called shock, and shock quickly took over the hearts and minds of all the sailors in the base. Pluto Rayleigh, the right hand of One Piece, king of pirates, Pluto Rayleigh, has returned to the sea. And as soon as he appeared, he killed a Tenryubito. What a big event. There was a loud rumbling sound from the other side of the phone bug. Immediately afterwards, the communication was interrupted. Marine Base was silent for a moment. Then Boyle. Everyone, calm down for me. Vice Admiral Maynard of the Marine Headquarters, who was in charge of guarding the base of Sabayati ground, gritted his teeth and waved his hand. Send all troops immediately to surround the No. 1 mangrove, and no one will be allowed in or out. Maynard Vice Admiral ordered. Saying that, he turned around and went back to the office, and got through the contact number that could go directly to Marshal Marine's office. After a while, the phone bug is connected. Marshal Sengoku, a big event happened. Sabayati Land No. 1 Population Auction House, Tenryubito is dead. Tenryubito was killed by Hades Rayleigh. Maynard shouted the report. What did you say? ... Chapter 218 Marshal Sengoku is here. Zephyr resigns. Open black lens bracket 6/7 close black lens bracket. Marine Headquarters, Marineford. With the return of the soldiers from Chinfin Island, the entire Marine Headquarters was plunged into a boiling ocean. And not just because of the victory in this battle. It is because of the hero who created the miracle. The entire Marine Headquarters, tens of thousands of sailors, are all happily discussing the miracle person who appeared on that island. Result: many clues about the past were involved. Especially the Marine veterans. I learned the detailed process of miracle from Rhodes, Lalo, Daikon and others participating in the Marine. Who have been in Marine for 20 or 30 years are all invariably puzzled. In their memory. This is not the first time. In the distant past. They were still Marine recruit, they had heard similar legends from the veterans who led them. It's just those past events that seem to be taboo. The veterans at the time were all silent. It's only when you're drunk that you say a few more words. When thinking about this possibility, many veterans in Marine, S40s and 50s left the field in a hurry, returned to their homes, and took out the contact phone bugs. They are going to ask those former bosses who have retired to their hometown for one thing. The entire Marine Headquarters was buzzing. The Marshal's office in the headquarters building is no exception. When I heard that from Zephyr, the name I wanted to hear, the legendary Vice Admiral of the Marine Headquarters and the hero Garp burst into hearty laughter. Chief Marine, Vice Admiral Suru held his sister Gion's slender hand with a bright smile on his pretty face. Even Marshal Sengoku, who had been in a gloomy mood for a month, had a look on his face at this moment. The old face that had been smothered for a month, a smile appeared again, and he apologized repeatedly. The atmosphere in the Marshal's office was full of joy. Blue is here. The phone bug rang in the office representing a major incident. So the smiles on the faces of Sengoku and others suddenly stagnated. The phone bug is connected. Headquarters, here is Vice Admiral Maynard, the base of the Sabayati Islands. Maynard Vice Admiral report. This is Sengoku, what happened Maynard? Sengoku said in a deep voice, frowning gradually. There was an unpleasant feeling inside. Marshal Sengoku, a big event happened, the No. 1 mangrove in the Sabayati Islands, Tenryubito. Charles Ross was killed. Vice Admiral Maynard's shocked scream reports. The Marshal's office was silent for a second. What did you say? Sengoku let out a shocking roar. He slapped the desk in front of him with a slap and stood up. Boom, just changed the desk a few days ago and sacrificed again. Tenryubito, dead, could it be that guy again? Sengoku's face, which had just cleared up, turned cloudy in an instant. It was gloomy as if it were about to drip. Sengoku. Garp stopped drinking. Mr. Sengoku. Gion is dissatisfied. Sengoku. Zephyr raised his eyebrows. Sengoku. Vice Admiral Crane's long beautiful eyes narrowed. You feel the targeting from comrades in arms and juniors for decades. Sengoku's heart suddenly became more and more sad and angry. The world noble Tenryubito, I know that there are many people in the world who don't like them, but under the shock of Marine Admiral, most people will not provoke Tenryubito, let alone kill them directly. All I can think of is that guy. After all, that guy has a criminal record, and he also has the strength to not be afraid of Admiral. Sengoku explained. This is just your speculation, Mr. Sengoku, why are you slandering others now? Gion pursed her lips and looked dissatisfied. Yeah, Sengoku, if you want to get angry, you have to check it out first. If it's really him, I'll go personally this time. Garp agrees. Zephyr and Suru did not speak. Because Sengoku said the possibility is really high. Mr. Sengoku. On the other side of the phone bug, Vice Admiral Maynard, startled by Sengoku's roar, spoke up again. Mr. Sengoku, the murderer of Tenryubito has been determined, it is Rayleigh. Pluto Serbas Rayleigh. Maynard shouted the report. Gah, clip, the phone bug hangs up. The marshal's office fell into dead silence again. Rayleigh, it's been a long time since that name. Zephyr muttered to himself. Ha ha ha, it turned out to be that bastard Rayleigh, he really hid in Sabayati, no wonder there have been more than one sightings of him in recent years. Garp laughed. Garp, is it time to laugh? Sengoku said angrily. Let that bastard get away with Rayleigh 20 years ago, and this time I'm going to beat him to impel down. Sengoku's sworn path. Sengoku, before that, should you have something to say? Vice Admiral Crane reminded. What words? Sengoku asked. Mr. Sengoku. Gion puffed out her face angrily. Sengoku was taken aback. Immediately, a look of embarrassment appeared on his face. Hold, I am sorry, it's my fault to come to a conclusion without checking it out. Sengoku lowered his head, then looked at Garp. Garp, didn't you just say you were going? The task of capturing Rayleigh is up to you. Don't go. Garp refused decisively, put his little finger up, put it into his nostril, and took it out on his own. You guy. Sengoku bared his teeth. I said earlier that if it's that guy Roland doing it, I'll go, and if that bastard Rayleigh does it, I'm not interested. Garp opened his mouth nonchalantly. And don't you just die for a mere Tenryubito, don't you need to make such a fuss, those rubbish snacks that only know pleasure. One more is not more, one less is not more. Zephyr, Vice Admiral Suru, and Gion all nodded, expressing their agreement, just Tenryubito. The veins on Sengoku's forehead burst out. Forget it. Sengoku gave up and turned to contact two admirals near Sabayati land. Although it is not far from Marine headquarters to Sabayati, it will take some time. The strength of Pluto Rayleigh, when their reinforcements arrive, the other party may have already fled and found a corner to hide. To deal with such emergencies is naturally the fastest Admiral Kizaru in Marine. Kuzan, what the hell is that Borsellino guy doing? Sengoku of Admiral Kizaru was not contacted, and Admiral Kuzan was contacted instead. Oh, Mr. Sengoku, it's alright, I've been watching Borsellino's side, this time he's not slacking off much, he's still, and that. Thundering. Kuzan's lazy voice sounded. Leave that. Guro Guro no mi, rumble rumble fruit, capable person for now, you immediately. Tell Borsellino to go back to Sabayati, stop Rayleigh, and wait for me to come. Sengoku growled. Since Garp is unreliable, This time, he, the marshal, could go there personally. True or false, Sengoku, you have to go by yourself. Garp's eyes widened in surprise. Ah, since you don't want to go, can't I go by myself? Sengoku said in a deep voice. Even though Maynard Vice Admiral reported that Rayleigh killed Tenryubito, Sengoku's intuition told him it wasn't that simple. Sengoku, there's still a lot of work for you at this headquarters. Vice Admiral Crane frowned, blocking. She also felt the clues of the death of Tenryubito. I'll leave the affairs of the headquarters to Suru for the time being. I'll go and I'll be right back. Sengoku got up. Sengoku. This time it's Zephyr. Zephyr, what are you going to do? Sengoku frowned. Zephyr stood up, took an envelope from his pocket, and handed it to Sengoku. This is... Sengoku was puzzled. Sengoku, this is my resignation report. From now on, I will officially step down as the chief instructor of Marine School. Zephyr spoke calmly but firmly. Sengoku. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Chapter 219 Thunder vs. Flash. Admiral Kuzan is stunned. Open black lens bracket 7/7 close black lens bracket. About 100 kilometers away from the Sabayati Islands, there is an uninhabited island called Akara. Rumbling, above the sky, there was a burst of thunder. And growing in these days. In the sky. Golden blue-purple rays of light crossed in an instant. After a while. Golden blue-violet light gathers and transforms. Admiral Kizaru and Guro no Mi, Rumble Fruit, capable Enel appear in the marine headquarters. It's such a terrifying thunderbolt. The young people are getting more and more terrifying recently. The large hole in the chest gradually healed. Shut up. Enel drank angrily. Feel extremely unhappy about Kizaru's casual attitude. Because of the past few days. Kizaru said more than once that he was scary. However, in the end, it took 3 days to fight, and the pretentious Enel was ragged and looked embarrassed. Admiral Kizaru, who was on the opposite side, was completely uninjured. Like a normal person. 2. A judgment is made. So when I heard that Kizaru was still, sarcastic, to him in that tone, the arrogant Enel naturally couldn't bear it. 30 million volts, Thunderbird. Enel shouted loudly. Took out the golden hoop stick, and tapped it on the left drum, and then quickly hit the right drum. 30 million volts, Thunder Beast. Enel's loud shout fell. In the sky, there was the sound of high-pitched birdsong and beast roaring at the same time. A huge lightning bird emerges from the drum on Enel's left and soars into the sky. The same way, a fierce beast composed entirely of thunder and lightning sprang out from the drum on the right, roaring in the world. Kill. With an order from Enel, the 2 ferocious birds that had transformed into a phantom, the ominous beast carrying a devastating thunder light, swooped towards Kizaru in unison. The young people are really impatient recently. Kizaru casually muttered to himself, without a trace of fear on his wretched face. Yasukani no Magatama, Glitter Fruit's ultimate burst. Countless laser beams shot out from between Kizaru's palms, smashing Enel's Thunderbirds and Thunder Beasts into a sieve. At this moment, Enel, who had released 2 large Thunder Beasts several hundred meters away, suddenly rose into the sky and fell into the thick thunder cloud. An aura that seemed to destroy the world radiated from the thundercloud. Admiral Kizaru in the sky and Admiral Kuzan on the ice of the sea are both raised eyebrows by Vivi. Yeah ha ha ha, the Flash bastard and the one below. Ice block bastard, even as the strongest under the gods, I have to admit that you are really strong and can fight me, but... In the thick clouds, Enel's laughter came. But this is the end. With my next move, you and this island will turn to dust. Enel spoke coldly. In the thick thundercloud of boom rumble, the sound of thunder grew louder and louder. A blue ball of lightning continued to expand and grow in the eyes of the 2 admirals. Enel prepared a big move for 3 days, and it exploded at this moment. Lei Ying. Accompanied by Enel's big drink. A huge ball of lightning in a thick thundercloud, falling towards Admiral Kizaru and Admiral Kuzan below. This time, it's really a little scary. It really was the right choice to take you, a dangerous person, away from Sabayati. Otherwise, the cute girls beside the teacher would be really dangerous. What? Admiral Kizaru pouted and spoke slowly. Infinite going light was swallowed up by Enel's thunder. Yeah, ha ha ha, Flash bastard, it's your biggest mistake to lead me to this place. If it's on that bubble island, I can't use Lei Ying's big trick to entertain you without any scruples. In the sky, Enel breathed heavily. Kuzan, what's the matter with you? Why is it so loud? On the ice bike, the phone bug in Admiral Kuzan's hand heard the roar of Marshal Sengoku. Don't worry, Mr. Sengoku, I've got the details, let Borsellino pass right away. Admiral Kuzan said lazily, hung up the phone bug, and looked up at the sky. The whole sky seemed to be occupied by violent lightning balls. Unleashes an aura of annihilation. Daunting. Hey, Borsellino, solve it quickly, Mr. Sengoku has a new mission. Admiral Kuzan shouted at the thunderball. At the moment when his voice fell, the dazzling golden light suddenly burst out. Countless terrifying golden laser beams burst out from the ball lightning. The lightning ball that occupied the sky exploded under Enel's shocking gaze. Boom 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 boom, sounded incessantly over the island. Golden laser rays and blue terrifying thunders descended from the sky and landed on the wasteland of Akara Island. One after another huge potholes were blown up. After a long time, the dark thundercloud dissipated. The earth is sunny again. Mid-air, Marine Headquarters Admiral Kizaru stood in the air. The mental state of the whole person is also full, and there is no trace of fatigue. About 200 meters away from Kizaru, Enel, the Guro no Mi, rumble fruit, capable person, also stood in the sky. It's just compared to Kizaru's calmness. At this moment, Enel looked a little haggard, gasping for breath, looking a little out of breath. There was a look of extreme shock on his face. Because Enel never imagined that Lei Ying's ultimate move, which he had prepared for so long, would be cracked so easily by the other party. This is simply unacceptable to the arrogant Enel. Except, our Logia abilities, and the fruit abilities between the two are quite similar. Whether it is Guro no Mi, rumble fruit, or glitter fruit, it grows with high burst and high speed. A duel between the two Logia-capable users, the outcome is no longer based on the development of the fruit ability. Depends on combat experience, hockey, etc. Comprehensive strength. Obviously, compared to Kizaru, the old fritters who have fought on the sea for decades. Enel, who only dominates the Sky Island, is obviously not enough to watch. After all, Admiral Kizaru was taught by Roland. Later, he experienced the most chaotic sea melee before Roger became king, and fought against legendary pirates such as Roger, Whitebeard, and Golden Lion. In his eyes, Enel was just a little baby. Oh, Bang Thunder Boy, this trick of yours is really scary. Admiral Kizaru spoke slowly. That was riddled with holes and nearly disintegrated under the aftermath of thunder and lightning. I felt more and more that my decision to bring the battlefield here was correct. Asshole. Listening to Admiral Kizaru's sarcasm, Enel's teeth creaked as if they were about to shatter. The first day of fighting against Kizaru, he felt that the so-called Admiral, the highest fighting force in the Marine Headquarters, was nothing more than that. Yourself with the ability of Guro no Mi, rumble fruit. The second day against Kizaru, Enel had to admit that Marine Admiral was really strong. The strong is like a monster, and even he seems to be suppressed. Against Kizaru, now that his Lei Ying ultimate move has been cracked. Enel finally realizes deeply that with his current strength, he can't beat Kizaru, and there is no hope of escaping. Kizaru's glitter fruit is even faster than him. If it continues, within a day, he will be exhausted and arrested. If God were there, you would be like this. Enel whispered unwillingly. Kizaru ignored Enel's second assumption, and turned to look at Admiral Kuzan on the ice. Kuzan, you just said something happened over Mr. Sengoku's side. That. I didn't hear it clearly. It seems that something happened to the islands of Sabayati. You're fast, why don't you go and have a look first? Admiral Kuzan rode. What happened to the islands of Sabayati? Admiral Kizaru, who had been calm for days after the war, finally changed his color at this moment. Because he thought of the lovely girls the teacher left on that island. If something happens to them, think of this. Without saying a word, Admiral Kizaru decisively turned into light and returned to the islands of Sabayati as soon as possible. There's something wrong with that bubble island. Enel also groaned inwardly, and his face changed greatly. Thinking of the bodyguard task that God gave him, if something went wrong. Enel didn't dare to think about it any longer, and immediately chased Admiral Kizaru away. In an instant. Near the ruined Akara Island, there is only a confused Admiral Kuzan. That Xinglei kid is also. What's the situation? It's not so coincidental. Admiral Kuzan noticed the last change in Enel's expression, and naturally thought of a possibility that he had jokingly imagined in his heart. So the expression on Kuzan's face gradually became wonderful. Chapter 220 Admiral Kizaru and Enel come together. Open black lens bracket 1/7 close black lens bracket. There was also a thunderous sound at the location of the number 1 mangrove population auction in the Sabayati Islands. It was the sound of the earth shaking. Void, purple-black lightning burst, but it was not the real lightning like Enel. Was the result of a fierce conflict between the strongest conquerors. Boom boom boom, 3 consecutive loud bangs. The hockey conflict reaches a tipping point. Then it turned into a substantial hockey storm and swept the 4 directions. Cracks appeared on the walls and seats of the auction venue under the impact of the materialized hockey storm. Next second. Exploded suddenly. The roof of the auction venue was completely blown off by hockey's storm. The walls on all sides collapsed abruptly. Countless stones, sawdust, comatose pirates, and the bodies of wealthy businessmen swept up into the sky under the storm. The scene is terrifyingly terrifying. Slaughterhouse. Facing such a terrifying storm of hockey. Even Trafalgar Law can no longer stay calm in it. Right hand spread out. Paramesha Operation Fruit ability activates. A blue circle instantly spread outside the venue. Within this blue surgical space field, he is the absolute master. Shu, as only for a moment. Trafalgar Law and the comatose Beppo and other crew members disappeared from the venue. The reappearance is already in the open space outside the auction site. Shadow of Demons. Hawkins on the other side does not have the convenient space transfer ability like Trafalgar Law. But as one of the first supernovas to reach Sabayati's land this year. In addition to the ability to seek good luck and avoid evil, he naturally has other means. A huge scarecrow emerged out of nowhere from behind. Ding ding ding, the iron nails between the scarecrow's palms were firmly nailed to the ground. The huge straw body protects the magician Hawkins and the crew next to him. Everyone, come to me. Auction backstage. Giant shouted loudly, opened his arms, and protected all the weak people who had regained their freedom in the background, wanting to endure the storm alone. What shocked the giants was that the terrifying hockey storm, which even changed the color of the world, did not fall on them at all. Not even the shards of stone and wood have fallen. Their side seems to be the only unaffected pure land in the field. Pure land on the other side. Naturally, it is the area where Shaki, Robin and others are located. Invisibly, there seems to be a force protecting the area where they are. So that the impact of the outside world cannot invade the slightest. Boom rumble, number 1 Mangrove Island's shaking reached its highest point. With the entire Sabayati Islands, the 79 islands shook. After the ultimate sublimation. This world's top conqueror conflict has finally come to an end. The sky is restored like this. The shaking of the ground gradually ceased. The waves of the sea also calmed down. The entire population auction house was razed to the ground, leaving nothing but ruins. How amazing! Witnessing the whole process of Trafalgar Law with my own eyes, my heart has long been shocked to the point of incomparable. Is this the world's top-level duel? I'm too far away. Trafalgar Law took a deep breath, for this huge gap that can't be seen at first sight, unconsciously gave birth to feelings of powerlessness and despair. It really scared me to death. Me too, I thought I was going to die. The starfish Papagu and the octopus Hachi hugged each other and cried bitterly. I said, you two big men, it's really useless, this little scene scared you. Nami on the side spread her hands helplessly and said indifferently. Yeah, it's just a small scene. With Brother Luo Ling, I'm not afraid at all. Vivi also said with a smile, having absolute confidence in Roland. Okay, the excitement is over, let's go too. Shaki clapped his hands and got up first and walked towards Luo Lin and the two on the auction table. Behind her, Robin, Koala and other little girls, as well as the trembling octopus Hachi and starfish Papagu, followed step by step. Another direction appeared with the mermaid Kami. After seeing the safe and sound mermaid Kami, octopus Hachi and starfish Papagu's trembling bodies suddenly returned to normal. 3 steps and 2 steps, rush forward. Woohoo, 8 sauce, Papagu. Kami, it's really good that you're okay, it scares me to death. Mermaid Kami cuddles with pet starfish Papago and bursts into tears. Seeing that Kami was safe and sound, Vivi, Nami and other little girls finally let out a breath. A brief hello to Kami. A group of little girls happily gathered around Luo Lin. Yingyangyanyan's scene, Rayleigh, who is not far away, is really envious. Damn, why are there so many cute little girls next to that guy who are so young and handsome? Rayleigh smelled sour like a basket of lemons. Rayleigh. At this moment, a familiar voice suddenly sounded from Rayleigh's ear. The hair on Rayleigh's body could not help but stand upside down. Ha ha ha, isn't this Shaki, long time no see. Rayleigh hit ha ha. Hee hee. Shaki sneered. Guessed his inner thoughts from Rayleigh's expression. But nothing was said. However, it was Shaki's silence that made Rayleigh more and more tormented. He also prefers that Shaki can beat and scold him. That's good. Brother Rolling, let me tell you, those traffickers are really hateful. Other side, Vivi waved a small pink fist and angrily complained to Luo Lin of the evil deeds of the traffickers. Okay, I'll sanction them right away. Roland replied with a smile. Brother Rolling, the pirate bounty that. What is Diamante's name is ours? Nami asked eagerly. Roland nodded. Great, just now there was a fool who paid a high price of 200 million to buy it, which is more than double the original bounty. It is worth 200 million. While speaking, Nami's eyes gradually turned into the shape of money. Roland let out a laugh, raised his hand and rubbed the hair of Nami, a small fortune fan, and immediately looked at Robin and Koala. That guy, the electric shock boy, shouldn't have run away. Roland asked. As for the suppressing effect of his own undead blood, Luo Lin was most aware of it. Even a king like Roger takes a week to get rid of. As for Enel, in Roland's estimate, it will take at least a month or 2. However, no, tutor. For Roland's doubts, Koala shook his head. That Enel didn't run, he was led away by Marine Admiral Kizaru. Robin spoke up. Borsellino. Roland was stunned. Whoosh, and Chucky, at this moment. The far horizon. Streak of golden light, a streak of lightning, one after the other, breaking through the air like a teleportation. In a blink of an eye, he reached the sky above the ruins of the auction house. Speaking of Cao Cao is here. Admiral Kizaru and Enel, the shock boy, are here.